You're now live to YouTube. All right. Okay. We are live on Rogers TV, on Sault Today, and on the city's YouTube page. Welcome, bienvenue en ligne. Before we start, I'd like to go to Councillor Vezo-Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to invite everyone on April 2nd. It's World Autism Awareness Day, and there's going to be a flag raising here at City Hall at 12:30 on April 2nd. As well, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at the Youth Wellness Hub on Dennis Street, there's going to be a symposium with agencies that serve the neurodiverse community. It's welcome, everyone's welcome, and it's open to the public. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I'd like to begin our meetings in a good way, as we do, by acknowledging with respect that we are in Robinson here on treaty territory, and that the land on which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and known as Bawating. Bawating is home to Garden River First Nation, Batchewana First Nation, and the historic Sault Ste. Marie Métis Council. Before getting into the regular agenda, I want to note that as many of us know, today is a very challenging day with the layoffs coming into effect at Algoma Steel, and our entire community stands ready to support all those affected by them. 1,000 layoffs is something we've been hearing consistently for the past 2 or 3 months, but those are not just numbers. They are people who have built their lives around this industry, an industry that has supported our community's economy for 125 years. And the impacts of those 1,000 layoffs will be felt across households and throughout the community. The city is focused on doing everything it can to support those workers and to spur economic activity in the community during this time. We will continue to do everything within our power to help those feeling the consequences of these layoffs, but it is important to be clear. This moment requires more funding than the city has access to. We need meaningful support from both the federal and provincial governments to get through this period successfully. They have been responsive to the concerns of Algoma Steel in the face of unjustified tariffs, and now they need to direct that same level of attention and urgency to the workers and the broader community that is feeling the impact of these decisions. Since the outset of the electric arc furnace transformation, it has been my position that the pursuit of a more environmentally friendly and cost-effective way to produce steel would be a failure if it did not come with a plan for the jobs that faced elimination as a result of that transition. Governments supported and encouraged this transition, and with that support comes a responsibility. That responsibility is to ensure that communities like Sault Ste. Marie are not left behind by the changes as they unfold. I and Council have been consistent in raising that point, and we will continue to do so. This is exactly why projects like the Port of Sault Ste. Marie are so important at this moment. We have the executive summary, as you know, Council, on the business case for tonight's agenda, and this project represents a real, tangible opportunity to respond to what our community is facing right now with nearly 800 prospective direct jobs that could be created once the port is up and running. CAO Vare and I and others had positive meetings with the Minister of Transport, the Federal Minister of Transport, Steve McKinnon, to discuss the port when he was in town a couple of weeks ago. I've also had productive conversations with the Premier's office in that regard. There is an understanding that this project is aligned with where both levels of government are trying to go. It meets national and provincial priorities around strengthening domestic supply chains, supporting trade, supporting transportation infrastructure, and building a more resilient northern economy. It also creates good-paying jobs in the community that have long supported Canada's industrial base. In addition to the industrial jobs that it could create, there are also office positions, secondary jobs, and jobs in the service sector like grocery stores, restaurants, and retailers that are going to feel the impacts of these layoffs. On this front, I and Council continue to advocate to the province to ensure that the OLG is filling as many jobs as possible as they can in the Soo, and making the case that all OLG jobs should be in the Soo going forward. We have intensified our lobbying efforts in this regard with the province, and I will continue to do so until we see results in the form of a greater presence here than they currently have. All of this to say, the city will do absolutely everything it can to ensure that there are opportunities for every single person affected by today's layoffs, and we invite you, the community, to advocate to your federal representative directly to the provincial government to advance the Sioux's cause both at Queen's Park and at Parliament. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
We will have motion by councillors Gordo and Hollingsworth, resolve the minutes of regular council meeting of February 23, 2026 be approved.
All in favor? That carries.
I have not received any declarations of pecuniary interest.
Council, any conflicts? Seeing none.
I have a motion by councillors Caputo and Spina, resolve that the agenda for March 23, 2026 City Council meeting as presented be approved.
All in favor? That carries.
We will go first to planning. Application A426Z, general housekeeping amendments. It's a motion by councillors Gordo and Hollingsworth, resolved that the report of the junior planner dated March 23, 2026, concerning city-initiated Planning Act application A426Z, housekeeping amendments phase 2 be received, and that council approve the housekeeping amendments listed in appendices A and B, and that the legal department be requested to prepare the necessary bylaws to effect the same.
Mr. Tenazzo, there's a lot of amendments, so I won't ask you to take us through all of them, but can you just give us a very high level of what the report's about?
Thank you, Mayor Shoemaker. As council may know, from time to time, we undertake these minor amendments. We call them housekeeping amendments. They are very much into the weeds, so I will spare you describing all of them. They're generally minor in nature and intended to keep the bylaw current. In this round, there's 14 text amendments and 2 site-specific amendments. They're all recommended for approval, and I'm available should council have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tenazzo. Council, any questions on these amendments? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to the amendments being proposed? And is there anyone here to speak in favor of the amendments being proposed? Okay, seeing none, we can have a vote on those amendments. All in favor? That carries.
Councillor Bruni.
Yeah, he had his hand up.
Then Wayne Greco, Chair, and Matthew McDonald, Chief Executive Officer, are in attendance with respect to the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library Board Annual Report.
Welcome to council to you both. I understand that you gentlemen are here in case there are any questions of you.
Just if I can open remarks,
Yeah,
Mayor and
absolutely.
Council, thank you for allowing us to be here today, talk about our annual report. Very proud of the work we do for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. And we're also very proud to say that all of council are now members and card-carrying members, and welcome to the club. And we look forward to servicing you at our libraries, and it's pretty exciting. And so Matthew is going to go through a few of the highlights from our annual report and take it from there. Are there any questions?
Actually, I'm going to try and keep it brief, like an abridged version of the Cat in the Hat. In 2025, the library remained a busy and welcoming hub for the community, with strong attendance in our programs and for all ages, from early literacy to adult learning. We continued to refresh our collections, expanding both physical and digital materials to meet evolving needs and interests. We also began a major project to replace our integrated library system with a new one, which we launched earlier this year. Also in 2025, we continued to make great progress on our strategic plan. We strengthened our partnerships and expanded outreach efforts to ensure services reached beyond our walls, connecting with residents who may not be able to visit in person. At the same time, our space remained a reliable destination for learning, connection, and access to technology. And none of this would have been possible without the dedication of our staff, volunteers, and the ongoing support of City Council. So circling back to the Cat in the Hat, so that is our story, both simple and true, a library hard at work, thanks to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Seuss. I mean, Mr. McDonald.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
Councilor, are there any questions on the annual report? Councilor Hollingsworth?
Thank you, through Mayor. To you both, that was, what can I say? You're great. Must have been the March break influencing you. Just a quick question. Annual report, great. Can you just comment on the surrounding libraries? What type of relationship do you have with the surrounding libraries, such as further down the line? Do you do like a book loan back and forth?
Yeah, there's a provincial system for the interlibrary loans, and so we would be lending our materials and possibly borrowing materials down the line. But like I said, it's a provincial system, so we could be getting books from Kingston and Windsor and anywhere down the line. We don't have a strong relationship, say, with Bruce Mines and other Algoma libraries. It really depends on what support they need. I'll sometimes give advice to the CEO there. But generally, we have organizations such as OLA and the Ontario Library Service, which are organizations built specifically to support those small libraries.
Okay, that's all. Thank
But
you.
we love being a big brother and helping out our little brothers and sisters when we can.
I know. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Hollingsworth. Other councilors with questions? Okay, seeing none. Madam Clerk, the motion, have you read that?
I have a motion by Councilors Caputo and Hollingsworth, resolved that the Sault Ste. Marie Public Library 2025 annual report be received as information.
All in favor? That carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council, we've got a few other folks here on a couple of agenda items, so we're going to bounce around a little bit. Under consent, we've got the 2025 Action and Metrics Report. If there are any questions on that, we've got Ms. Varpio here, our physician recruiter. And we've got, on the general report as well, staff to answer any questions on that. Councillor, Venezuelan.
I was just wondering, this is about the millworks, the 50 jobs created. Just wanting to know if those were new positions, are they permanent full-time positions, what sectors they came from, if that information is available.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bezo-Allen. The jobs at Millworks are created through the programs they run primarily. So startup, we have a couple of different programs that we run there. And each one of those typically is an entrepreneurial business, so there'll be individuals or 2 people, 3 people. They go across all sectors. They are primarily startup jobs.
Okay, so do we track of the 50 jobs created? Like a year from now, like are they still active? Are they able to get supports? I guess I'm just looking to see, like, in terms of business expansion and retention, are those jobs still working? Are these people still working in our community, or do they fall off because the business wasn't successful? Like, do we track the metrics in that regard?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we track the initial results from them when they come on board, so we will do regular follow-ups with them. But after the first 6 months, typically they're on their own at that point because we have a constant churn of people coming through there and we have limited resources.
Okay, so of the 50 jobs, at this point, we don't know if going into 2026, if those jobs are still in existence.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, we would say that those jobs typically are in existence.
Okay, But we're not tracking that.
No, but we do work with the individuals on their business plans, financial plans, so it's a pretty thorough intake process that we go through with them prior to them leaving the program and starting their business.
Okay. Okay, and I guess my only other question on 7.1 is just if CAO Vera could just give a high level of maybe some of the highlights in the plan for folks at home and people watching, that would be fantastic.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezoal, and thank you for the opportunity. I think there's a lot of work that the city can be proud of, staff can be proud of in this report, and I want to thank staff for all their contributions to this body of work. So some of the highlights include over $40 million in funding support received from the federal and provincial governments in 2025. Our target was $28 million, so there was great support for a number of programs that the city was able to take advantage of. Investment attraction efforts, we did beyond the 50 jobs with the Millworks Center, the recent sale of the land to Protexa for the Cybersecurity Center presents a real opportunity to generate meaningful job creation as well. The mayor mentioned earlier our work with the Port Project and signing MOUs with HOPA and Algoma Steel to advance that project. Was an important step this past year. And then the opening of the Heart Hub with CMHA, Social Services, as well as the Emergency Treatment Fund funding program from Health Canada, which will provide 24/7 mobile support in our community. These two initiatives, I think, will make a big impact in the community, and we're looking forward to seeing them really take hold this year. The city saw 301 new housing starts in 2025, doubling the provincial housing target, which is really positive for the city, and I think even more impressive, 27% of these units are affordable units, which exceeded our internal expectations when we launched that program. So that's really positive news for the community. Our municipal accommodation tax revenue increased to $2.3 million, showing strong growth in our tourism sector. We mentioned physician recruitment, 16 doctors. We have Tasha Varpio here with us today, and that's a tremendous result for our community to have 16 doctors recruited in 1 year. We thank Tasha for all her work, and we look forward to continuing that momentum. The RCIP program, Rural Community Immigration Pilot Program, welcomed 400 skilled newcomers to the community. We were initially allotted 300, and we were able to grow that to 400 based on other communities not being able to meet their quota. So that's positive news for the community. Previously, council approved the Community Safety Wellbeing Plan and the Homelessness Strategy. Those are important initiatives that are underway. And then finally, I would point out 88 events at the Roberta Bondar Pavilion shows great use of that facility, and over 30,000 participants at the Downtown Plaza throughout the different activities throughout the year. And I think when we initially presented to City Council on our hopes for the Downtown Plaza, having a space that was activated throughout the year, having success with 30,000 people attending the plaza would be seen as a real achievement for that facility. So that's great news for the community, and we look forward to building on that in 2026.
Thank you, Councillor Vezoal. Any other questions there from yourself, Councillor Vezoal?
No, on 7.1.
On 7.1?
No.
No. Other councillors on 7.1? Councillor Hollingsworth?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. Maybe I'll start with Mr. Ver. Great summary again. Can you elaborate more on the doctors, or I could pass it on to our wonderful physician recruiter?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, I'll allow our expert in this area to approach the mic to answer those questions.
Welcome to council, Ms. Varpio.
Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to first say that many people I've been talking to have been feeling the positivity of the new doctors. And so basically, good job. Can you just break down the 16 physicians? Do you know by chance how many of these physicians are actually homegrown, originally from Sault Ste. Marie? Would you know that?
Yes, I do, and it's 15.
Oh, it's 15?
15.
16.
And there may have been 16, but looking at 2025. So someone snuck in early this year. Homegrown, that's a great question. Three.
3?
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
Yeah, and one has a connection to Sault Ste. Marie, and one is a partner of someone from Sault Ste. Marie.
Excellent, that's great. And when you say 15, are you saying we recruit 15 in that particular year?
15 started in 2025, and 2 of them were recruited before my time. So recruitment, sometimes people commit to work in Sault Ste. Marie a year in advance or more than when they actually start. So 13 were recruited.
Okay, and I should know the answer, but I don't. Out of the 15, are they all family physicians, or what's the combination again, please?
Yeah, I can give you the breakdown. My pleasure. We have 6 PRO candidates, and so that is the Practice Ready Ontario. They are family physicians. We have a pediatrician, a pathologist, medical oncologist, internal medicine physician, obstetrician, gynecologist, 3 more family doctors, and a cardiologist.
Excellent, that's a celebration. And final question, can you give us an idea what the age range is, roughly?
Yeah, let me just. I can give you perhaps new within their first few years of practice. I have our PRO candidates are international recruits, and so they've been practicing for 5 to 10 plus years out of med school, but new to Canadian system. And I would say 5 would be under 5 years of practice. And some of them within their first couple of years of practice.
Okay, so they're probably hovering between the ages of 30 and 40 approximately.
Yes.
So they should be here with us for a long time.
Yes, and all of our PRO candidates have a 3-year return of service.
Okay, and actually, final question, do you know a breakdown of how many are NOSM graduates?
I can figure that out, yeah. 4 are NOSM graduates.
That's fantastic. So in summary, thank you for what you do, and maybe we can do like, I don't know, next year sometime, like a big celebration, welcome all the new docs to a special party or something. Just make
That
sure
sounds great.
Yeah, on behalf of the city or something. Thank you.
Great idea. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Gardy?
Hi, Mr. Mayor. I think it's important to also highlight that all of this good work has been done in the shadow of the bad news that we've received that you referenced earlier today. So staff is doing a lot of work and doubling down and doing their best for the community. I wanted to reiterate something that you said as well, Mr. Mayor. I've shared before with people who talk about our efforts as it relates to Algoma Steel and further economic development beyond Algoma Steel that, and forgive me for those of you who take this the wrong way, but I'm going to say it nonetheless. If we found out that the Sioux Greyhounds were moving to another community in Sault Ste. Marie, the community would be up in arms and they would rally as they did in the past. I am a firm believer that, heaven and earth would be moved by those people with influence in our community along with business leaders. I don't necessarily sense the same urgency amongst the community at large, outside a lot of the efforts that those who represent those people are exerting. on their behalf. So to your point about reaching out to those people who are elected, who are in charge of ensuring that we have the resources as a community to, get through this rough patch. I encourage everybody, as they did with the Heart Hub, to reach out to Mr. Sheehan, to reach out to the provincial government, to reach out to ministers' offices who are in charge of some of these funds, to let them know that you are vitally aware, as much as Mr. Mayor is, of the need for support to navigate the next few years. And I would encourage anybody out in the community who's a business leader to not only, work with the community as it relates to transitioning some of these workers, but to actually use some of your connections across the country to see what you can do, and the province to see what you can do for our community. Okay, sorry for that preface. Question to Mr. Ver. 400 newcomers to the Sault through the Community Immigration Pilot Project. Awesome. You said it was a 300 goal, and we benefited from some other communities not doing as well as they could have potentially done. What's our target for this year, coming year, Mr. Ver?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, the number for this year would be back to our 300 level that we were previously approved.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Councillor Vezowalan answered my questions, or Councillor Hollingsworth asked my questions as it related to the physician recruitment. And I was going to ask a question about tourism, but I see that Mr. Anderson isn't here tonight. Could that go to you, maybe? You do as best you can. Tom, I think it's important, like, we're seeing an increase in tourism, not just through the numbers, but I think anybody who's out at different establishments here in town or participating in different events in and around the community or out at Searchmount are seeing more people in the community than they otherwise have in the last few years. Could you just outline for the community at large some of the efforts that the cities put forth to help bolster tourism locally?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, three main things, I think. Number one is the ongoing work of our team to promote Sault Ste. Marie. So the work we do to promote the community online, targeted advertising, different tourism events where we go to recruit bus tours to Sault Ste. Marie and that type of work. The other thing is working with our different sports organizations to attract more events, tournaments in Sault Ste. Marie contributes to that. Some of the infrastructure that we've invested in as a community, certainly the mountain biking trails. We've seen the growth in Searchmont, and the investments that they've made are helping to bring people to Sault Ste. Marie. And then overall, in general, I know Travis Anderson pointed out that we have seen a decrease in travel to the United States. And as a result, we're seeing a pickup for people traveling in Canada and looking for new destinations. And certainly Sault Ste. Marie's benefited from that.
Sure. And just one final question, Tom, and maybe I'll leave it for Travis later, but despite the reduction in travel from the States to Sault Ste. Marie, is there still a concerted effort on the other side of the border to attract visitors?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, yes. Yes, there is.
Thanks. I'm done, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Gardy. Councillor Burney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess questions back to Mr. Ver regarding the 2025 action and metrics report. We did receive $40 million from the federal and provincial government, and it exceeded the annual target. I guess my question would be, compared to 2024, what would those numbers be? And also a comparison for the Roberta Bondar and the downtown plaza. We met the metrics, but just curious, what would those numbers be for 2024?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Burney. Excuse me. I'm just pulling up those numbers here. For the Roberta Bondar Pavilion, there was 91 events in 2024, so we had 88 this year, and that's up from years past. But we tend to be in that range now of, high 80s, low 90 events at the Roberta Bondar Pavilion. And for the, sorry, I'm just pulling up my numbers here. For the plaza last year, there was 28,484, so we're seeing nice growth at the plaza. And then on the funding side, in 2024, directly to the city, there was $29.5 million. If you added in the Heart Hub funding that the community received through CMHA and DSAB of 18 million, that was approximately 47 million in total.
Thank you. I guess a question would, to Mr. Ver or to Public Works. In the report, it said annually 750 catch basins are cleaned per year, but because of some equipment malfunction, only 488 catch basins. Those 262 that were not cleaned, are they going to be added to the 750 this year, or we're just going to continue doing the 750?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, we're confident we'll be able to get well over the 750 this year.
Okay, thank you. And one more question regarding the report to transit, Mr. Lamming. The metric showed 1.9 million transit riders. We actually had 1.5 transit riders. Does staff have any initiatives for the 2026 to increase the ridership to the 1.9 if possible?
You, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni. The prior year in 2024, we had a ridership of 1.94 million. We dropped off this year to 1.518 million. That was mostly made up of the international student reduction, both at Sault College and Algoma University. We do have the Sault loops that'll be implemented later this summer. That will result in essentially going from a 30-minute service during the day to a 15-minute service. So we do hope to catch a few new riders that will like the frequency of the service. They'll be accompanied with our corporate communications team, heavy push on advertising. We likely won't get back to the 1.9 million. In perspective, a few years back, we were down at 710,000. So we're looking to get a little bit higher going forward this year with the implementation of the new loops.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Councillor Dufour.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ver. Thanks for the level of detail in this report. I noticed online the plan is also posted there, and there's a really cool kind of interactive graphic that helps to show some of the increases and decreases. I was just wondering if it'd be possible to have communications share the link and maybe advertise that a little bit to the community. I think that it's obvious to me that a lot of work went into preparing this report, and it's in large part good news information. It'd be great to see it shared a little more widely. Thanks.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, we're happy to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Dufour. Other councillors with questions, comments on this? Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Ms. Varpio, I just had one question. I've had some contact with a local person who is wanting to maybe come back home, and one of the roadblocks that they have run into is that NOSM is not accepting international applications. Is there something coming down the pipe to change that?
That's a good question. There are certain spots for, okay, let me back up. Canadian med students who are studying abroad are considered international. So that's one of the pieces that complicate that. So that work doesn't happen under physician recruitment anymore, but happens with our NOSM coordinator. And they're very aware of this and will make every effort to accommodate our local students. I would suggest they reach out. They can reach out to me if they want, and I will advocate for them with my colleagues. But that's something that's set by NOSM.
Okay, thank you. Other than that, I love the highlight of the work, and that this program does seem to be working well. Just always some suggestions, right?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I welcome them. Thanks.
Other councillors on 7.1? I'd just like to commend Ms. Varpio for her efforts. I think that, this council has invested in physician recruitment, even when others have withdrawn their funding for that program. Ms. Varpio's success in recruiting a number of new candidates to the Sioux shows that continued efforts to work with NOSM, I think is there's clear evidence that that is bearing fruit, and working with local students who have gone whether to NOSM or to other med schools is bearing some fruit as well. So hopefully that continues for the foreseeable future, and numbers like this keep up with the local demand. So thank you for that, Ms. Varpio.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing no other items on 7.1, we will vote on that as part of the consent agenda. But we have had, what number is it here? Just find it. 7.3. Yeah, there we go. 7.3 separated from consent. And we've got Mark Harrington, president of CUPE Local 3 here, who's requested to do a delegation on this. We will read the motion so it's on the floor, and then we'll go through the report.
Agenda item 7.3, landfill and composting operations RFP. It's a motion by councillors Zagordo and Hollingsworth. Resolved that the report of the CAO dated March 23, 2026 concerning landfill operations be received, and council authorize staff to develop and issue a request for proposals to seek a proponent that will purchase the landfill airspace and undertake landfill operations, and construct and operate a biosolids and single-source organics composting facility.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Mr. Harrington, you can approach the mic. The floor is yours. Welcome to council. We'll have you come to the taller mic there.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor Shoemaker, council, colleagues, and community members. My name is Mark Harrington. I am the president of CUPE Local 3 with the Public Works and Engineering Services. I stand before you to urge council to reject contracting out our landfill operations. This is simply about budgets. It's about public safety, accountability, and the livelihoods of local families. City staff have run the landfill for decades with skill and dedication. They know the site, the systems, and the community. They show up on time, respond to emergencies, and carry institutional knowledge that cannot be brought in by a contract. When storms hit or equipment fails, it's our neighbors, your constituents, who keep services running and keep our streets and environment safe. We recognize the city must manage costs responsibly, but projected savings often overlooked real long-term costs. Weakened oversight, potential reductions in wages and benefits, threats to collective bargaining, and hidden liabilities for environmental redemption. A private operator may privatize profit over community safety, who will be accountable if standards slip or if proponent abandons the site. Ownership of the land alone does not eliminate operational risk. If council proceeds with any procurement, CUPE Local 3 insists on ironclad protections, guaranteed offers of employment to existing workers at equivalent pay and benefits, enforceable environmental and performance standards with independent audits, transparent public reporting, and contract terms that allow the city to terminate and resume operations without undue cost or delay. Thus must not be operational promises. they must be binding contractual obligations. This winter shows why local committed workers matter. Our members work long overtime plowing roads, maintaining services during record snowfall, often sacrificing their own time off to protect the public. These are skilled, loyal employees who deserve respect and job security, not the uncertainty of privatization. Finally, this decision reflects our community values. Are we willing to sacrifice good public jobs and local accountability for short-term estimates? QP Local 3 asked Council to choose secure public services that prioritize residents, safety, and fair employment. We are ready to work constructively with Council and staff to find efficiencies without outsourcing our responsibility to the public. Protect our jobs, protect public services, and protect our community. Thank you all.
Thank you, Mr. Harrington. Council, are there questions on this report? Councilor Garrity?
I got a comment. Potential some questions, is that okay, or?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay.
We're just, I know there's going to be lots of want to come back to in 3 times. We're going to go through everybody once.
Come back to me.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate the input. Thanks very much for coming tonight. So, Mr. Mayor, the staff report and the independent study before us tonight present a compelling financial argument. The potential to save upwards of $120 million and offload $56 million in capital debt for the biosolids facility is a rare opportunity to significantly unburden our municipal balance sheet. However, I feel a deal of this magnitude, one that locks in our waste strategy for the next 25 years, requires more than just financial verification. It requires community input. While the city funded an independent study, that study was born out of a specific private sector approach. We are currently missing the fundamental step of asking our residents, who are essentially the true owners of the landfill, what their priorities are before we move to a formal RFP. The residents of Ward 5 and the broader community, I believe, deserve a seat at the table before the requirements of this RFP are set in stone. And I think we need to know if concerns that they may have that could include things like traffic, environmental monitoring, and long-term costs are reflected in our procurement documents. And for this reason, I am not going to support moving forward with this RFP. I am prepared to move an amendment later, but I am going to listen to everybody else. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Garrity. Councilor Vezo-Allen.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Ver. And I did pull up the October 22nd, 2019 report that was part of our council package on the landfill business and implementation plan by ACOM. So much of my questions are referenced on that October 2019 document. And if anyone wants to find the document, it was the October 22nd, 2019 City Council. Some of my colleagues here were not elected then. So in that report, Mr. Ver from ACOM, did the report recommend outsourcing landfill and waste management services at that time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Vezo-Allen, no recommendation was made on outsourcing. It wasn't part of the scope of work to evaluate outsourcing. It was really contemplated as a plan for city operations to continue forward.
Okay. And in terms of the plan, was this plan considered as part of the recommendation that we're receiving today to go with an RFP?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Vezo-Allen, yes. So it was really used to guide us in the initial discussions we had with GFL, and is something that we would reference as staff on a go-forward basis to inform the RFP and then to inform any potential agreement with a private sector proponent should council proceed down that path.
My next question is for Ms. Hamilton Beach. Ms. Hamilton Beach, in terms of the report and the recommendations, Where are we in terms of the recommendations of that report? And how have you and your team used it as a guiding tool in terms of the landfill operations?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezo-Allen. That really does form the backbone of our user fee system for the landfill. And it is all inclusive in a live document. So certainly decisions that we take to council get embedded in that report. We have fallen behind on a time frame of some of the capital projects, but certainly day-to-day operations are following through with that.
Okay. In terms of the backlog of the report, I know we're still behind for organics. What is the time frame, Ms. Hamilton Beach, in terms of both that business implementation plan that was passed in 2019 as to where we are now in the landfill operations business plan for the recycling and the organics?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezo-Allen, I'll separate out the the recycling, because it is no longer responsibility of the community. So it is very much moving forward on the provincial level, and common rules and goals are being implemented in our plan. And my team is basically mediating between, complaints and any type of service that is currently being provided by GFL. As for operations, we are certainly moving forward. The timing of our approval for expansion is backed up, I guess, twofold. This discussion at present, and as well, we do not have the MECP approval in hand as of yet. So we are continuing to work with, the original agreements that we have and look very much forward to those approvals.
Okay, thank you. I was going to bring up the public consultation piece. I do agree with my colleague, Councillor Gardy, not just our stakeholders. It is a really critical, essential service that we as a municipality must provide. And I think the importance of not just community members, but also environmental groups. I would prefer that that was happening before we issue the RFP. I don't know that that is the best interest of our community in terms of such a critical, essential service. So at this point, the way it stands, I'm not going to be supporting going to RFP at this time.
Thank you, Councillor Vezo-Allen. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. First of all, I want to say I really appreciate Mr. Harrington for coming tonight. You spoke well, and you highlighted some really important facts, especially on this day where Algoma Steel, unfortunately, are laying off so many individuals. So thank you for taking the time to come to educate us. I have many questions, but I'll just get to the punchline. I'm not going to support this either. So my first question, though, just to educate myself, is through you, Mayor, to me, Ms. Hamilton Beach. When you and your team started to look at doing this, can you give me 3 reasons why your team thought it might be important to do this RFP, or to basically have a private company manage this?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, I can speak to that on a higher level from a staff perspective. So as the report indicates, the concept of outsourcing to a third-party operator was not something that staff were investigating or looking into. We did receive an unsolicited offer from GFL with this concept that was presented to us. I think to Mr. Harrington's points too, I do want to emphasize to the community, it certainly wasn't the case where staff were unhappy with the performance of staff or the work that's going on at our landfill. We've got a great team out there that do a great job. Really, it was this proposal that kicked off this process. And it was the potential savings that were outlined in the proposal from 39 million to $122 million, which led staff to feel that it needs to be investigated further, given the level of savings that was potentially proposed to the city. is something that we needed to investigate further. The other thing I would emphasize, I think, from our report is that from a staff perspective, we really see this as a two-step process, three-step process. We're here tonight to authorize the RFP. If we were to conduct the RFP, that would identify a lead proponent, which the city would then enter into negotiations, because really the complexity of this agreement is significant. And so the way staff is looking at it is that you would identify a proponent from the RFP, should one come forward that staff would feel comfortable recommending to council. And then the city would look at negotiating an agreement. And it wouldn't be until we really got into the details of the agreement that we'd be able to, as staff, come forward to council with a recommendation to proceed or not. And then council would have another decision point to make at that time, whether they wanted to proceed. And that would be based on all the understanding of this agreement and the details that go into it.
Thank you. Can you just elaborate further on the level of savings for us? I think that's a very difficult piece to really qualify or quantitate. Are you saying there'll be a level of savings for the next 5 years, 7 years? We know that costs go up and costs would be passed on to us, and sometimes we have no choice but to accept those costs. So how can we be really very confident that we'll have ongoing savings? Can you elaborate?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth. Really, the savings are for what was contemplated 25-year operations agreement for the landfill. So those savings occur over the 25-year lifespan of the agreement. The city did engage a third-party firm to assist us with doing some analysis on the proposed savings. And, in a sense, it comes from the investment in the capital facility, the biosolids and SSO facility, and the operations of that facility, which helped to drive some of this, or the significant amount of the savings for the city through this type of arrangement.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the past, we have been very concerned about the lifespan of the landfill. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, that's correct. So we currently have about 2.5 years anticipated left with the current landfill. As Ms. Hamilton Beach referenced, we have an EA that's been ongoing for a while with the province. We spoke to provincial staff week before last on the anticipation of when approval may come. So we would anticipate within this year that we would get that approval from the province, which would open up more capacity at the current site. But as it stands now, without that EA approval, there's about 2.5 years left of the lifespan for the landfill.
Okay, so hypothetically, if we do go down this road, it opens up the EA, and so we may buy some more time on the landfill. Is that correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, no, really, this process is independent of the EA. So the current EA has us with about 2.5 years left. When we get approval, that will open up, another 25-year window for operations at the site. And from a provincial perspective, the operator of the landfill, whether that be the city and our staff, or whether that be a third-party proponent, they need to comply with the provisions of the EA, the ECA for landfill operations. So it wouldn't matter to the province necessarily if it was city staff or a private sector operator. Whoever operates has to comply with those ECA provisions.
Okay. And final question. We are not the only city that is facing landfill issues. Fair enough?
Through Mr. Mayor, Councillor Hollingsworth, that is correct, yes.
And I would assume that surrounding communities in Algoma or Northern Ontario would be facing these similar issues.
Through Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, that's correct.
Having said that, have you reached out to other surrounding communities in Agoma where we potentially can put a plan together that in the future, maybe we can start looking in the next 5 years for a landfill site that we all can use as one, that where hypothetically Echo Bay, hypothetically Deborah, and so forth can all pitch in and be a partnership?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, we have not. The EA process, as we mentioned, has been ongoing for quite some time. It is a lengthy process to get through that. Our EA really covers landfill for Sault Ste. Marie, Prince, and Batchewana First Nation. And so that is the scope of our EA as currently contemplated. So there isn't right now within our EA the ability to have waste from other communities come into our landfill. It's approved based on the needs of the city primarily and those two other entities.
Okay, so if we, as council, decide not to move forward with this RFP, would there be an appetite for the city to start working with our surrounding communities to look for a future landfill site and see if there's an appetite, if they may want to partner with us outside of the city that's still reasonable for our trucks to go to, for their trucks to go to be basically economies of scale?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, the current EA, which we hope and anticipate would be approved this year, would provide the city with a 25-year additional lifespan in the landfill. So at some point in the future, that might be something we want to look at, you know, when we need to start planning. It does take a long time, so we have to start this work early to look for a future landfill site. But at this point in time, certainly our focus is on the current landfill site and the EA and the operations of that site.
Okay. It's always nice to be proactive instead of reactive and working with our surrounding communities. Thank you, that's all. And again, thank you, Mr. Harrington, for coming tonight.
Mayor, Council, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For me, this comes down to the question of, is privatizing the landfill operations the right thing to do? And to me, we have to first ask ourselves, why are we even discussing this? It's not because city staff have ever believed that privatizing was worth looking into, or because the public has stated they wanted this. As reported by Mr. Ver in the historical timeline of the Waste Management Council reports, we can see that as far back as 2015, the plan has always been to retain operations of the landfill as a core municipal service. We're discussing this because a for-profit corporation issued a proposal to take over our landfill operations. There has not been consultation with the public to get us to this point. Consultation, in my opinion, should come first when discussing this multi-generational decision. We are skipping this critical step in the process if we decided to move this to RFP today. I can't answer the question, is privatizing the landfill the right thing to do for our community? It could be, and it could not be. But without asking the public first, I don't think that this is the right question to be asking us at this time. The fact that keeping these operations in-house mean that city staff put the health of the landfill and the best interest of the community first. A third-party operator will have profit as their first priority. So I do have many questions, but I don't want to water this down any further without public consultation and being able to confidently answer the question of, is privatizing the best way to go for our landfill? I will not be supporting the decision to move this to RFP tonight. So thank you.
Councillor Caputo, Councillor Spina.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Likewise, I have many questions on this file, many of which have been asked, and I do have some other questions. However, I do want to, in the interest of time, boil it down and acknowledge that I agree with a lot of the people who spoke here today. I do agree with Councillor Gardy that the public needs to be consulted on something such as this. This is not collection that we're talking about, roadside collection. This is the privatization of something that I see as a core city function, something that we do for the city of Sault Ste. Marie, and that is expected of us from the citizens of Sault Ste. Marie. I also agree with Mr. Ver, where he indicated that this is that the complexity of this is quite significant, which leads me to then agree with Mr. Harrington that the folks who are on site know the systems, know the site, know the community, and have the institutional knowledge required to have that facility function now and into the future. As a result, at this time, I don't think it is, in my opinion, in the best interest of the city of Sault Ste. Marie to privatize this part of our operations, and as such, I won't be supporting this going forward.
Thank you, Councillor Spina. Councillor Bruni?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to thank all the councillors that are making comments. Each comment is very important. I think it's important that we can have involvement from the taxpayers and the constituents. But my question to Mr. Ver is, can an RFP go out and can public consultation occur during the RFP or after the RFP when one company is picked and before it is signed off? Can public consultation occur then?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, consultation could occur after the RFP process had concluded and staff bring the report back. I think one comment I would make is that in order to consult the public, I think you would want to have the details of what the proposed relationship was. So without those details present, to consult with the public would be difficult because you wouldn't have the specifics required to have a fulsome consultation with the public. And I think the questions would largely gravitate towards some of the details which you don't have until you've got, you know, at least the high-level understanding of the deal points with the proponent, and that would come after you have an RFP and made could see the submissions from the private sector, proponents to the RFP.
So if a proponent is picked from the RFP and there is, I guess with city staff, back and forth to have a contract with them, public consultation can occur before any type of signing off on the documents. Would that be correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, that would be correct. I think two things. So the way staff envisioned the process, if RFP would be undertaken, and then from that, the results would be reviewed. Staff would make a recommendation to council whether we had a proponent that we wanted to proceed with. And the high-level deal points at that point from the RFP submission that proponent submitted. And then secondly, there would need to be a detailed agreement that would be finalized with that proponent and brought back to council for approval, which both of those things I think would provide opportunity for public input.
And I'll go back to the public input. Can it occur before it comes back to council?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, I think the way you would do that is that you would return the information to council, and that information would be brought to council, and then you would have a period where a decision would be deferred to another meeting of council, which provide an opportunity for the public to have their input.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Just trying to bring up my screen here. Regarding the, and you might have touched on it a little bit, but the composting facility, when does that have to be completed?
Through you,
Do we
Mr.
have-
Mayor, to sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, the provincial legislation was to have the city collecting single source organics in 2025. So we are behind in meeting that timeframe for a number of different reasons. And so there is a desire to move the process forward as quickly as we can in order to meet that legislation and have a solution for single source organics. And then also we've been dealing with the biosolids issue for some time as a city, which is something that has been proposed and brought to council, and we have a need to address as well.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Bear. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Councillor Dufour?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Bear, if an RFP is issued and a proponent comes back and is identified, is the city under an obligation to enter into a contract with that proponent?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, no, the city does have the ability not to select a proponent from the RFP. And council has the decision to advance an RFP. So staff would make a recommendation and council would decide whether, they wanted to advance to a final agreement with that proponent.
Thank you. So to my mind, the question that I've been asking myself when looking at this issue is whether or not I have all of the information available to me to make an informed judgment as to which service model is best for the city of Sault Ste. Marie. On the one hand, there could be some significant cost savings. And on the other hand, as our presenter and many others have commented, there could be some significant service implications as well. So there's some major issues to balance. But when I look at the issues in total, I don't believe that sitting here today, I have enough detailed information to make a determination either way. I don't know the specifics about what a potential operational contract would look like. I don't have further details on what a city-run facility would necessarily cost either. Because of that, and because there is no obligation for the city to enter into a contract because of our decision tonight, I do believe the most prudent decision is to embark on getting all of that information for us as a body and for the public and our constituents as well, to know what in fact is the right model here. I think that, in all my years on council, rarely have I seen an opportunity to save anywhere in the neighborhood of $50 to $100 million. And so even though this would not necessarily be my main idea or preferred option, I do believe that we have a responsibility to examine it and to get all the details required in order to make an informed choice. I think that by bringing this RFP to open council, by getting media coverage of this unsolicited offer, by having our comments repeated publicly here, I think that we are beginning a conversation and hopefully going to get many of the opinions of our constituents and the community at large. I think that proceeding with this RFP to me would give me more of the information that I would need to make a responsible choice for the community. Those are my comments. My final question through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Ver is if an RFP is advanced tonight, alongside that, would staff still be available to continue to advance or to communicate what the plans are for a city-run option? So what I'm saying is, I don't want to see a decision point in the future if the RFP comes back where the decision is, here's the preferred proponent, and by the way, there's no other real option to go with a city-run option because XYZ weren't done, so we got to go this way, right? So is there some assurance or some way for things like the BNI plan to be communicated to council, for any of those to, if there are issues, if there are resource needs on the city side, is there a way for that work to continue as the RFP advances so that we are presented with two equally resourced options at the conclusion of this process?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, I would say that certainly none of the work related to the RFP would leave the city in a position where we would not be able to proceed with city operations. So we wouldn't be in a point where, because we've gone down this road, we've blocked off our avenue for a city-operated facility. I think we do need, from a staff perspective, I think that was part of our rationale in trying to move fairly quickly in order, if council wanted to do an RFP, and I think in good faith, we have to decide if we're prepared to consider a private sector operation model, then certainly we wanted to do that in the near term to identify whether we had a proponent that we wanted to proceed with. Because if we don't, then we want to move full steam ahead on the city plans. I think it would be fair to say, if we were to proceed with the RFP, we would pause the, the work doing the detailed drawings on the SSO facility, biosolids facility, because you wouldn't want to spend, good money on that and then have it wasted. At the same time, that wouldn't preclude the city from picking that up once we had the results from the RFP.
Okay. And if the city proceeded with the SSO facility, what's the timeline looking like on that in the best case scenario for operations?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, from my recollection, and I might refer to Mr. Ramil on this, but my recollection was, we would still have to complete the detailed design drawings. We would have to tender that, and then you would go to construction phase. So you're probably looking at least at a 2-year cycle.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Bear is correct. It'd be probably sometime in 2027, we could have something up and running.
Okay. Thank you. Those are my questions.
Thank you, Councillor Dufour. Councillor Zagordo.
Mr. Mayor, just a question through you to Mr. Vare. In going out or sourcing out to a third party, we would go into negotiations in terms of an agreement. In that agreement, would we have a say in the level of service, employment for our own employees, as was mentioned in the presentation today, to ensure that those that may potentially lose their job be hired? And then the environmental factor, would all those be subject to a negotiation? Would we have a say in that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Zagordo, yes, the city would have a say. What staff have been contemplating in the RFP process would be certainly the operating parameters of the landfill. Number one, obviously, they have to comply with the EA and the ECA provisions. Number two, there would be the need for that private sector proponent to follow the BNI plan that the city has already created, in that the tipping fees charged at the landfill, couldn't veer from what was already contemplated in our BNI plan. So you wouldn't have, a significant increase to residents that's not already contemplated by the city through our BNI plan. Certainly the operations, hours of operation, all those types of things are things that the city would include in the RFP and say, these have to be followed going forward at a bare minimum. And then as it relates to employees, we would look for those private sector proponents to have an obligation to offer employment. At the same time, doing some of our work internally, we would like to have some choice for our employees, and we think there may be opportunities to have those staff continue on in other roles within the corporation through public works for a majority of the staff.
So we would have control over those things that we see vital or important, and would those come back to council for a vote, or for us to debate if we were satisfied with that agreement or that part of the agreement?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Zagordo, yes, those would return to council. Staff would issue the RFP with the parameters, but certainly that final detailed agreement would be back for council, and all those details would be there. I would say, sorry, on the union staff as well at the landfill, there's obviously bumping rights for continuation in public works, so there will be the ability for those employees to continue on in the city.
So we can ensure the employment through that negotiation with that third party.
That's right.
So, and as I understand from our earlier discussions, we run the landfill site in a deficit. Correct? Is that correct, year to year?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Zagordo, correct. Really, the landfill operations are provided as a city service. That city service is funded by the levy, so taxpayers pay for that. The tipping fees that are collected at the landfill help to offset that amount, but they are provided as a service, and that's funded through the levy.
Okay. So, you know, just to cut to the chase, as most of my fellow councilors did this evening, the way I see it right now is that we can maintain level of service, employment, environmental factors, a lot of which are governed by the province anyway, and we're running at a deficit. And here we have an opportunity to maintain level of service, employment, and all those other parts of the plan that we deem important and save the taxpayers money. I think it's a no-brainer that if we can maintain what we have and save taxpayer money, which I feel is our number one priority, again, maintaining what we have in a negotiation and saving those monies, I think that we do have a responsibility to the taxpayer, and for that, I will be voting for the RFP to go forward this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Zagordo. Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you to everyone who's asked questions prior. Most of my questions were asked. I do have one more, though, I would like to ask, and I'm not sure who to direct it to, so I'll just aim it toward CEO Bear, and hopefully we can get it. In the time that we've been running the landfill, have we had any provincial environmental act violations? Or if we have, roughly how many in the past 10 years or something? I know that's kind of a hard question, but.
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Scott, I'll refer this to Ms. Hamilton Beach.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott. There were odor issues back late 90s through to the early 2000s. One of the big solutions was a biosolids plant, which is what we're also discussing today, but those matters were resolved, and day-to-day the operations has also put in effect a number of mitigating factors that have really reduced the number of complaints we have. To my knowledge, our last annual reports for a number of years now, we've all had a stellar performance and a very good rapport with the ministry officials.
Great, thank you. The reason I asked that was because GFL does have, and I'm not to pick on them, but they're the ones who brought forward a couple of landfills that they purchased throughout Ontario. And in 2 years at Stony Creek, they had 10 provincial complaints under the Environmental Protection Act. The one in North Stormont, it was found that 10% fish mortality from the leachate was being reported. They were falsely reporting test results. These are the things that concern me. To Councillor Zagordo's point, I appreciate that we are trying to save constituents money, but I also think it's our responsibility to not cause any illnesses or any greater issues for those living around the area, and especially hearing what we just heard, that we've got a pretty stellar record recently, that is. These reports against GFL are also recent, so that's my biggest concern here is there's a reason that they're coming to us, and it's, to Councillor Caputo's point, it's not for charity. There's clearly a benefit for a corporation to make money. It sounds as though, when you look into it, that there may be some cost cutting in areas about the environment or something I can't speak to, but these are well reported. So my biggest issue with that would be right now we have a say in it. We know we're responsible. We know our staff are taking care of it. Once that's out of our hands, that's it, right? And that's my biggest concern. So for that reason, I don't think the city should ever give this up. And I will be voting in opposition of this RFP tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Scott. Councillor Kinnick, did you have anything?
Yes, I did. Thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Shell, how much has the city currently set aside in the reserve for the new expansion of the landfill and the biosolids plant?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kinnick. Right now, let me just find my notes. Just give me a minute. There's lots of questions. I'm trying to find the right one. Sorry. The waste disposal site currently has a balance of 15.5 million as of December 31st, 2025. So after commitments, the remaining balance is approximately 6.1 million. So there's 3.3 million right now in the organics project, or what we call the SSO, that's reflected in that commitment, plus another 6.7 million in the 2026 capital budget. The waste disposal reserve had an amount transferred in the amount of 2.9 in 2025. In 2026, there was supposed to increase by just under 400,000, but during budget deliberations, the transfer was decreased to 973,267.
Okay, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Vare. What happens to the employees and their jobs if the RFP goes through and we accept it?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kinnick. So what we were looking at is that the private sector proponent would have an obligation to offer employment opportunities for affected employees. At the same time, there would be the ability, we believe, for the majority of the employees to continue on with the city and other roles within our Public Works Department.
Okay. And just another question for you, Mr. Vare. We are currently waiting to hear back from the province about assistance in building the biosolids facility. Do we know of any other communities that receive funding, and roughly how much has that covered to help them with their costs of the biosolids and landfill?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kinnick. So the funding program was a federal funding program that we had applied to for that facility. We did inquire with the federal government, and the response that we got back was one that was not specific to our project, but it was to all kind of inquiries to that program, basically saying that the funds have been fully utilized at this time, and so we're not anticipating support for the biosolids facility from that program. We could look down the road if other programs come up, but at this point in time, we don't believe that funding program is going to be an option for the city.
Okay. And through you, Mr. Mayor, to Miss Hamilton Beach. Are we, the city, are we looking to get out of the waste management business?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to CAO Vare, I think being the author of the report, perhaps you can respond for the city.
Yes, I'm sorry, Councillor Kinnick, could you repeat that question?
Yeah, are we looking to get out of the waste management business?
Okay. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Kinnick. Two components to that question. I think in terms of collection, the city staff through this process still envisions the city having an ongoing role in collecting of waste. As it relates to landfill operations and the composting facility, as mentioned previously, we weren't looking actively to get out of waste management. It was through this unsolicited proposal and some initial analysis that was done that we discovered there could be opportunity for significant savings for the city. And so that's why we're here today.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just for comments, so on our city website, we do have a tax calculator that shows anybody who goes on there the levy portion. And you can play around with your assessment value. So an assessment value of say 200,000 to 400,000. If you put it into our calculator, you can see the waste management is about $93 to $233 for the year. And that works out to about $1.80 to $4.50 per pickup if you average it out for the 52 weeks. I'm not sure if a private company would be able to do it at that cost. And I am concerned about the environmental impact that something like a landfill has and mismanagement of it will have on our community and the health of our community and nearby bodies of water. For that, I think we should be keeping it public and under the city's control to be able to monitor it better and to deliver a great service for the city or for our residents that we have been in the past, and I think we can continue to do that in the future. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Council. From my perspective, I agree with Councilor Dufour that I don't have, the information I need to make an informed decision, but obviously the prospective savings are something that merit this being further investigated. And I think once we had that information, if this were to pass, we would have an informed decision before us. However, understanding the comments of various councillors today, it doesn't look like that is something that council is eager to do at this point. Councillor Gardy does have an amendment to the motion, which I think is really more of an independent motion, less of an amendment. So what I propose, and is it in the scribe yet? Just about to be.
I think it's in progress.
What I propose is that we put Councillor Gardy's motion on here as a notice of motion for next meeting. Defer the motion that's before us so that Councillor Gardy's motion can take precedent over it. Vote on Councillor Gardy's motion, because if we turn down what's before us, we can't vote on Councillor Gardy's motion because it would be essentially reconsideration. So defer what's before us, put Councillor Gardy's motion on there as a notice of motion for next meeting, and then if it passes, the main indicator to go to RFP would be deferred until some period after his notice of motion was dealt with. So Madam Clerk, we do have a mover, don't have a seconder yet, but once Madam Clerk reads it, we can see if there is a seconder out there.
For notice of motion, I won't need.
Oh, okay. We will need a seconder for the next meeting if there is a willing seconder.
So that would be resolved that the main motion be postponed until, I believe it's April 13, pending vote on the notice of motion.
Procedural question, Councilor Caputo?
Do we get to know why we're deferring, like what the motion is?
We're going to read that.
Okay.
In a second here. It's also in e-scribe.
The notice of motion is whereas the City of Sault Ste. Marie has received an unsolicited proposal regarding the long-term private operation and lease of the municipal landfill, and whereas the city's existing studies have focused primarily on technical expansion, environmental assessments, and the financial verification of a single private sector offer, and whereas a 25-year shift in the delivery of a core municipal service requires a demonstrated community green light and a comprehensive understanding of the long-term public interest. Therefore, be it resolved that the staff recommendation to proceed with the request for proposal for the landfill operations be deferred for 90 days to the council meeting of June 22, 2026 to allow for completion of the following: public interest study and independent evaluation of the long-term socioeconomic impact of landfill privatization, including a market value appraisal of the site's renewable natural gas and carbon offset potential, community consultation process, at least 2 formal opportunities to gather direct input on environmental, traffic, and cost concerns, the creation of a community standards document based on the results of the public consultation to be integrated into any future RFP as mandatory performance requirements for bidders. Further be it resolved that any future RFP, if it proceeds, ensures successor rights, seniority protections, and wage preservation guarantees for QP Local 3 employees.
So that's a notice of motion if we defer the main motion, which is the motion. Councillor Dzinski, Clerk Dzinski read a moment ago. Then if this passes, it'll necessarily defer that main motion for at least 90 days because it asks for this to be done in 90 days. So the deferral today is just to next meeting, which is April 13th. But if this passes, it would necessarily defer the main motion for at least 90 more days after that. Any procedural questions? Councillor Spina.
And if the amended motion does not pass, the original motion is defeated?
If the amended motion does not pass, then we have to vote on the main motion as presented.
So we're not voting on the main motion if we vote on the deferral. However, if we turn down the deferral today, we'd be voting on the main motion today.
That's right. So the mover of the deferral motion is Councillor Gardy. Do we have a seconder of the deferral motion? Anyone? Councillor Bruni, thank you. So the deferral is open for vote?
That's correct.
Okay. All in favor of deferring? Like 4 to me. Let's see what comes up here.
I'm waiting. Councillor Gardy, I would assume is in the affirmative. And Councillor Bruni.
He was in favor.
So that motion is defeated 6 to 5. So voting in the affirmative are Councillor Gardy, Dufour, Bruni, Kinnick, and Mayor Shoemaker. Voting in the negative, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Bezo-Allen, Councillor Scott, Zagordo, Hollingsworth, and Spina.
Okay. So we are at the main motion.
And the main motion by Councillors Zagordo and Hollingsworth. I did already read it, I think, but resolved that the report of the CAO dated March 23, 2026 concerning landfill operations be received and council authorize staff to develop and issue a request for proposals to seek a proponent that will purchase the landfill airspace and undertake landfill operations and construct and operate a biosolids and single source organics composting facility. And that is open.
Sorry, all in favor? Opposed?
So voting, that motion is defeated. Voting in favor, Councillors Dufour, Bruni, Zagordo, and Mayor Shoemaker. Opposed, Councillors Caputo, Gardy, Bezo-Allen, Scott, Hollingsworth, Kinnick, and Spina. We're on consent. I do have an amendment on agenda item 7.20, so we'll accept that from consent.
So, Councillor Bezo-Allen, you had done 7.1 first, so I'm going to have you go to any other items you have on consent if you do.
I have a list.
Okay, go ahead.
I'll go in numeric order. 7.2, Port of Sault Ste. Marie. I just want to ask, and I was fortunate to be with you and Seu Ver at Roma when we met with the minister with the Port Colborne and HOPA representation. My question is, right now, in terms of the report and business plan, there's no financial obligation attached. And I guess my question is about the scope of work in terms of people investigating funding, possible Algoma Steel land acquisitions, outreach to the businesses. That's, you know, sort of the immediate term. Who is owning that work? How are we supporting it in terms of the city? And are we going to be looking at needing some funds in the near future? And if you can kind of give me an outline of that, that would be great.
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezo-Allen. So that work is being undertaken with a combination of city staff. So Deputy CEO Brent Lamming, Rick Van Staveren and his team are supporting the work, as well as staff from HOPA. We have been with HOPA advocating with the higher levels of government, both provincial and federal government. There is a new National Trade Corridors Diversification Fund, which has been announced. So we feel there is a, I guess, a home, if you will, for federal support for this project, and we'll do our preparation for that. And we've been advocating and working directly with provincial staff on it as well. So the, you know, the funding stack, if you will, would see significant, in our hopes, significant contribution from the federal and provincial government, contributions from HOPA, contributions from private sector players that will be part of the port, and then other contribution from the city. We don't have at this time the exact number there. I think the big thing is because the bulk of the funding would come from the federal and provincial government. So we want to reserve to have more conversations with them to better understand what the envelope of funding might be, and then return to council in the future on that.
Okay, but there will be an expectation that there will be a contribution from the city in terms of this project.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezo-Allen, yes, there will be a contribution from the city. I think that contribution will take, or could take, a number of different forms in terms of, you know, funding contributions, say from our Economic Development Fund, and also potential use of land, city land, for the project.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Vezo-Allen. Councillor Zagordo on 7.2.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to Mr. Ver. On the report, it mentions approximately 2,500 jobs, potential jobs. Are we assuming that those would be local jobs and in the city?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Zagordo, yes, those would be local jobs, and that would be made up of direct jobs at the port. It would be also indirect and induced jobs created as a result of that port. So just like the community seeing the impact of the 1,000 layoffs at Algoma Steel and the ripple that has in the community, on the positive side, in this case, we would see the direct impact of port jobs as well as ancillary jobs that would be brought to the community. And we also believe there's a potential to attract other industry to the community with a port facility that those industrial players would be, or business players would be looking to take advantage of that port facility.
Well, that's great news. My second question mentions that it would be a $200 million capital plan for the port. What can we expect for the municipal portion of that, if anything, or are we expecting complete provincial, federal contribution for the entire amount?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Zagordo. We anticipate some contribution from the city. We're a little too early in the game to provide an exact number for council at this time. But our hope is that the federal and provincial government programs will help cover the bulk of that $200 million capital plan.
More good news. That's great. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Zagordo. Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Ver. I know in our report, HOPA is defined, but for the viewers at home, can you define HOPA?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, that's Hamilton Oshawa Port Authority.
Okay, thank you. You commented on the 2,500 jobs, and that is excellent, good news, but 2,500 jobs could be still 5, 10, 15 years away. Or can you elaborate on what are the immediate jobs over the next year to 2 years since we have these immediate layoffs?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth. So the jobs that are forecasted, that would be within 5 years. And then the construction-related jobs are estimated to be 1,400 and 1,800 full-time equivalent jobs. And we believe if we can get that funding support in the near future, that this is a project that is shovel-ready, if you will. We'd be able to start the work as soon as possible. We have to conclude an agreement with Algoma Steel on the land, but the project could start this year, and so we could see the direct positive impact in the very near future.
Okay. And can you give me an idea of the size of this port compared to the current port in Thunder Bay and the current port in Hamilton? Is it going to be about the same size? Is it going to be larger? Is it going to be more utilized for more ships? Can you just give us a ballpark?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Hollingsworth, the initial phase one of the project would be about 216 acres for this port of Sault Ste. Marie. And so that would consist of 2 to 3 slips for vessels, as well as the laydown space, the roads, the infrastructure, the lighting, rail access to that port facility. So that makes up a good chunk of the facility. And within 4 to 5 years of operation, we think that this port of Sault Ste. Marie could be, within the top 5 or 6 ports operating in Ontario.
Okay. In your report, I believe I saw something to do with Quebec. You're talking about Quebec and so forth. Who's going to actually use this port? Obviously, Algoma Steel, but Algoma Steel, unfortunately, output for steel will not be filling up the ships. Tenaris is very successful. Tenaris is doing well, but their output will not be enough to fill up the ships. You mentioned agriculture also in your report. So can you please help me understand where the use, who's going to be using it?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Hollingsworth. So Algoma Steel has their own port facility. So this business case doesn't rely on Algoma Steel product moving through the port in order to support the operations. Our staff have been working with HOPA staff to identify opportunities and users of the port. And so those users span a number of industries mentioned, minerals and mining, forestry and value-added wood products, other steelmaking outside of Algoma, manufacturing, salt and aggregate products, and agricultural products. So within all those sectors, there's different companies that have been identified and opportunities that have been identified that will utilize the port facility.
Okay. Has there been conversations with these companies to get a sense that they definitely will use this port?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, yes. So our staff and HOPA staff have had a number of workshops with industry players and talked about the port and their projections to utilize the facility.
Okay. Talking about Thunder Bay, how many slips do they have? You said we may have 3 slips. Do you know?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, sorry, I don't have that number.
Okay. I know down the line, Bruce Mines has trap rock. Can you see them using our port?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth, my understanding is their operations load, they have water access there, they load directly there. So they're not included as a potential user of this port.
Okay. And plus, they just invested into a conveyor belt to move their product to their own port. Okay. If we are successful with this, have you had conversations with the province and the federal government about updating our highways? Right now, Highway 17, as you know, is very unsafe. We do have transports that are unfortunately are basically getting into accidents. Have you had conversations with also with our rail system? As we talked about before, the rail system between Sault Ste. Marie and Hearst does not exist. It only exists for our tour train. Here on Central, thank goodness we lobbied and we got that back, but the average speed for those trains depends on the track, 20 miles per hour, 40 miles per hour. So if we are successful at the port, we're still going to have to seek funding, millions and millions of dollars, to update our highways and our rail system. Can you comment?
Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Hollingsworth. I would say three things. One, in our AMO delegations, our Roma delegations, highway safety and highway upgrades is an ongoing advocacy point for the City of Sault Ste. Marie, as well as the NOLAM, Northern Ontario Large Urban Mayors Group. So that's definitely something we continually advocate for. Secondly, I would say that the application and the $200 million capital does include rail upgrades that would help to bring product to the port and improve rail infrastructure to Sault Ste. Marie. And then the third thing is that with this port project, one of the things that it will do is help to actually remove truck traffic off the roads and put it into a greener solution and a safer solution for transporting goods from Sault Ste. Marie via marine access.
In all due respect, kind of disagree with that because the trucks are going to have to go from the mines to our port. So you still have to rely on transports.
Yeah, through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Hollingsworth, yeah, it's the truck traffic that could be removed from the roads from Sault Ste. Marie to Southern Ontario. So Hope has done a fair bit of work with our staff looking at kind of what they call the Sault to South corridor, which could help to remove some, not all. Certainly there's going to be truck traffic going forward, but it could help to remove some truck traffic from the highways.
Okay. I know for a fact that Highway 11 has gotten the attention of the federal government and the provincial government. It is going to be coming out more in the news, but the federal government is seeing Highway 11 as our interprovincial supply route. And so there potentially going to be some motion in the House of Commons to look at how to improve Highway 11 because Highway 11 is the main corridor for mines and also the main corridor for the Ring of Fire. So I'm concerned about that. Thunder Bay Port to the Ring of Fire is about 300 to 540 miles away compared to us at 900 miles away. I understand you have conversations with other companies, which is great, all the way to Quebec, but we're still very far away from the main mines. And I am also concerned that a significant amount of money is going to have to go into Highway 17. And at this time, I feel, from my understanding, the federal government is looking at Highway 11 at this point for investment. But again, I'm happy that we are trying to be proactive and looking towards the future. So thank you. That's all.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Councillor Dufour.
Mayor, I just wanted to talk a little bit about the history of the port facility and the City of Sault Ste. Marie's involvement. I remember when I was early on in running for City Council, I read quite a few of the reports that were done for previous iterations. And I always found some of the history to be instructive in why this is different. So to be brief, I believe it was in 2006 when Algoma Steel first approached the Stephen Harper government to fund an upgrade to their port facility. They did an extensive application. They ended up being told, sorry, we're not going to fund a private company's private port facility. So then they, for lack of a better word, approached the City of Sault Ste. Marie and said, hey, how about we set up this new company? You guys can have a 1% stake. And then we'll reapply and say, hey, look, we have some public interest in our port. They did that. They set up a company. They reapplied. They did not get funding. And that 1% stake in the Port of Algoma company also did not yield any of the projected benefits for the City of Sault Ste. Marie. The business case that we have in front of us here today is something very different. It is not a public access facility that's been added on to a private company's operation as an afterthought. It is a a business case that quite frankly has seen a lot of leadership from City Hall and from our economic development team. It's one that is predicated completely on a public access port to specifically expand access and users into our local economy. There are certainly some benefits for steelmaking. There's certainly some benefits for Tenaris, but it is leading with a growth mindset that I think is really important. I would also note that kind of in my view of watching these port projects evolve at the same time, the city spent a lot of time spending resources and political capital trying to get rail lines updated between here and Sudbury to varying degrees of success. And now with this project, we have an actual number attached to the rail upgrades that to my mind, would be pretty generationally significant in terms of upgrading the infrastructure into our community. So I, for one, am a little more optimistic on this. I think this is a better business case, and it's a better political climate than Sault Ste. Marie has ever seen to get this kind of infrastructure here. And this is the kind of infrastructure that, even though you may not see those industries here today, a lot of this growth doesn't come unless you have the infrastructure to move that product at scale. And so leading with the infrastructure, I do think is still a wise thing to do. So excited to have spent some time at Roma, sharing this with the provincial government. I had to say I was surprised and pleased that many folks down there were already quite familiar with our proposal and had great stuff to say about HOPA as an operator, the level of expertise that they brought to our project. So I'm cautiously optimistic that on the heels of some bad news, we'll hopefully see some good. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Dufour. Councillor Bruni.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question to Mr. Ver. In the report, I didn't see anything regarding the Ring of Fire. There must be a reason why it wasn't included in the report. I mean, it's a possibility that that can come to the Soo. So maybe you can comment on that. Thank you.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bruni. In our work with HOPA, what we really wanted to focus on were the near-term opportunities. We know that it's going to be some time for the Ring of Fire development to move forward. And I think while we believe that this port could offer services to the Ring of Fire, in our work with HOPA, we were able to identify some real near-term opportunities to move product through the port that provides a strong rationale and business case to invest now and not wait for, to see what happens, let's say, with the Ring of Fire. We know that there's real opportunities with the port project that can be realized in the immediate term. There's a number of mines in our area, Wawa, Dubreuilville, et cetera, that, equipment, et cetera, could come through our port to be brought up to those mines. And so it really helps to present the case to the government, and I think aligns with a real strong window of opportunity when the provincial government is looking at investments to protect Ontario and strengthen internal trade corridors, when the federal government is looking at doing similar things. Sault Ste. Marie has a real window of opportunity here to make this port project a reality.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Councillor Gardy.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you to CAO Ver. Mr. Ver, through the work that you've done with HOPA, if one day relations between the United States and Canada get back to something that we used to experience, are there opportunities in parts of Michigan that could benefit from us having a more substantial port here? Is that anything you guys have considered?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, given our current climate, it's not something we've looked into extensively, but we do believe this port facility could have opportunities down the road to serve as a regional facility and supply goods into the United States and or vice versa.
Well, thank you. Just So Prime Minister Carney and his government have established the Major Projects Office. Mr. Carney's an economist. Not that he's watching our council meeting right now, but, you know, the Major Projects Office is considering projects that are in the billions of dollars. The economies around the Great Lakes, the 7 or 8 states in the province of Ontario, represent a GDP of about, I don't know what it is, it's $7-8 billion US, which is essentially the 3rd largest economy in the world behind China and the United States. There's a lot of untapped potential in the Great Lakes, as the report from the city indicated. They've prioritized, you know, the Ring of Fire, as was referenced. They've talked about, you know, manufacturing resilience as it relates to, you know, EVs and the components that are a part of EVs. The federal and provincial government have also really, as Councillor Hollingsworth mentioned, are looking to invest in Northern Ontario, or at least they say they are. I don't see how a $200 million investment in our community at this stage isn't essentially, I know I'm kind of simplifying things, a no-brainer. When you have, you know, that Major Projects Office identifying about $116 to $117 billion for the critical mineral strategy, for $51 billion over the next 10 years, building Community Strong Fund, talking about, you know, housing enabling infrastructure, which, you know, would be a part of what we do here at the port. It makes a heck of a lot of sense, not to mention, you know, sovereignty and defense infrastructure that they're talking about in the tens of billions of dollars. So, you know, we have a good partner in HOPA. We have some strong advocates, you know, with Mr. Mayor and Mr. Ver and their counterparts at the other levels of government. I really, really hope that Minister McKinnon, when he was here, absorbed and considered and conveys that message to Prime Minister Carney that this is a small ask, relatively speaking, for a nation-building project, which would really open up Northern Ontario and businesses here and services here to the world, quite frankly. So good work and keep it up, guys. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Gardy. Councillor Spina?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quite frankly, Councillor Gardy hit the nail on the head. This is a nation-building project, and really, I did want to take a second to congratulate staff on a job well done. Councillor Dufour rightly indicated some history here on potentially why projects like this, or this particular project, did not get off the ground earlier than this. I think things have changed now, and this report clearly indicates what has changed, and clearly indicates that our city is in the driver's seat here and ready to tap into the untapped potential that we have. And I have to say, I was quite excited when I read this report, and it's something, one of the things I believe I was waiting for when Mr. Ver took over as CAO. So I'm happy to see you bring this to fruition, and I'm likewise very excited to see the support of our federal and provincial government when this comes forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spina. Other councillors? I think a couple of things that the business case really doesn't say explicitly, but that some of you have touched on in your questions today, is, you know, the history of this port actually goes back to 1954. It was first suggested by Skipper Manzuti, who was the chair of the economic development of the Chamber of Commerce, at the time, and who was obviously a captain on many ships in the Great Lakes over his years, and saw the potential that a port in Sault Ste. Marie had. And the original plan was actually further west of here in Lees Bay, and not on Algoma Steel property specifically. Now, this plan is not necessarily on Algoma Steel property, given that there are still negotiations with them happening, but that's certainly the property we are honing in on for if a deal can be reached with them. So a 72-year history of trying to locate a port, and so I don't fault the community when it says, well, how's it going to happen now? It hasn't happened in 72 years. But the reality is this land was never excess to Algoma Steel's needs. When they had a blast furnace, this is where they stored slag. And they don't produce slag anymore through the electric arc furnace certainly at a capacity or at a rate that would require this type of storage. So the surplus of land that is there, we believe, is something that's different this time than it has been in the past. The alignment of this project with the federal and provincial government's, Build Canada Strong and Protect Ontario mantras is something that is different this time. I think, weakness in the Canadian supply chain that was realized first through COVID and subsequently through trade wars with the United States is something that is different this time, that was not, prevalent in the past, or not certainly a focus point of the provincial and federal governments in the last iterations of this port, including the most recent iteration in 2015 when SR Steel or SR Ports was proposing a 15-slip port on this site. So I think that second, as a second differentiating factor, or perhaps third differentiating factor, and to go to some of what Councillor Gardy and what Councillor Bruni were asking on Ring of Fire and mines and other opportunities in the area and opportunities in the United States for this port. This business case was developed on what is real and what is can be achieved today. If there is opportunities in the United States, if there is opportunities in the Ring of Fire, it is going to improve the economics of this port. It is not going to, it is not reliant on those opportunities, but it is going to improve the economics of this port. So I think that there is a number of positives going for this. I have been pleased to the point of shocked at how well received it has been by the provincial government, Premier Ford's office, by the federal government, the Minister of Transport, the Minister of Industry. Any minister, staff member who we've talked to is aware of this project, is aware of the needs of Sault Ste. Marie. This is the other thing. It is being presented at a time when there is a serious need in Sault Ste. Marie for replacement positions of jobs that are being lost, really as a result of the trade war. And many people will say, well, these positions were going to be lost from the electric arc furnace transition anyways. That's true, but we were planning this port to dovetail with the timing of those positions being lost originally in 2029, and we had to speed up this work in order to recognize that the steel plant layoffs were sped up as a result of the trade war. So the federal and provincial governments have supported Algoma Steel through their transition to electric arc steelmaking, and now it's time to support the workers who are impacted by that transition by supporting projects like this, supporting projects like the move of OLG to Sault Ste. Marie, and that will show a commitment to not just the company's viability, but the worker who has built the company over the years, over the long term. So thank you to staff for putting this report on the council agenda. Thank you to HOPA for making significant contributions to this port plan as well. And we're going to keep at it until we get it built. It's not going to take another 72 years, though. So we are still on you, Councillor Venezuela.
Quick question on 7.4, the Walk of Fame Award, probably to Ms. Jasinski. Regarding the current applications, because the due date is in April, have there been any Walk of Fame applications received to date that may or may not, because we're looking at it coming forward as a city council member, so it's not going to affect any
No, I don't believe we have any. We haven't put a news release out for intake
Okay,
pending this report.
okay. And if any do get received, can council then be aware of that? And then if council chooses
Certainly.
to support one? Okay, okay. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't leaving out anyone that may have already applied for the Walk of Fame. Okay, that's my only question on 7.4.
Anyone else on 7.4? Okay, go ahead, Councillor Fitzwilliam.
And my last is for Ms. McCauley, 7.2 on the traffic flow of Church and Pim. Thank you, Ms. McCauley. Currently at this point, and I just want to get a high-level review of the recommendations. So Church Street reconstruction is scheduled for 2027. And at this time, it doesn't appear clear whether you're recommending two-way or keeping it the one-way going northbound.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Vezo-Allen. We are recommending to proceed with the construction, the design and construction of Church Street as it stands today, 10-meter wide road, sidewalks, and then continue the operation as a one-way until such time that we can figure out what recommendations should happen north of Wellington.
Okay.
Because continuing two-way traffic north of Wellington creates a problem at the base of the hill. So that is a issue that needs to be delved in further. It will take time. Probably not in time for us to start our design, which we would be doing kind of this fall. So the only concern I have would be at the intersection of Wellington where it widens to 3 lanes. So should there be any changes from a two-way direction, it may stay the same. If we were to go to two-way operation, it opens to 3 lanes, 1 lane southbound, 2 lanes northbound with the continued right turn lane. So there'd be no change, or potentially the removal of that right turn lane if it was warranted during the actual traffic analysis.
And if it goes to two-way, we would lose the on-street parking on Church Street, correct?
Correct.
So has there been consideration given to the new multi-unit building at 110 Pim and sort of the effects of like people visiting and things like that for parking?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, that's the whole point, is we actually haven't done that level of consideration. What we are suggesting is that while the individual components of this project don't require an environmental assessment, the fact that it is so complex and impacts so many people, we would suggest we do public consultation, look at all the different alternatives that are possible, do public consultation, both of the adjacent neighbors as well as the community as a whole, to then form a decision on whether to proceed or not.
And when are you considering that public consultation?
So the concern that we have when we do environmental assessments is that in general, they have a shelf life. So they become stale and then you have to redo the work. So at this point, the roads north of Wellington are not in the 5-year capital plan.
Correct.
So our suggestion is to proceed with that study once Pim Street and Church Street north of Wellington show up on the 5-year capital plan. So do the study at that time when we actually have funding assigned. Does that make sense?
Okay, but as of it stands now, the reconstruction for Church is still slated for 2027 and it will remain as northbound.
Correct. The limits would be from Queen to Wellington.
Correct. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. McCauley.
Anyone else on 7.21? So I think Councillor Vezo-Allen highlighted some of the peculiarities with this report. I frankly don't think it makes much sense to reconstruct Church without looking at Pim and without looking at Church between Wellington and Ontario Ave or somewhere around there. Summit, perhaps, as far as Summit. So this is being received for information tonight. I think we can receive it as information, but I do think this would be, we would be much better served to undertake a review of him and church between Queen and call it Summit, just for ease of reference, to see how traffic could flow better. Because there are two very close intersections at Church in Wellington and Pim in Wellington with opposite turning lanes, with opposite signals there. And then there's two unidirectional lanes. And there's Pim Street that splits into two near the what would be kind of commonly known as the rotary flower bed at the base of the hill that splits traffic off into two directions. So I would be more comfortable with a Church Street reconstruction being pushed a year in order to get it right than with proceeding with Church Street reconstruction next year and then having to amend it when we rebuild Pim Street in some future year. So that is what I'm going to be suggesting as a go forward. We'll receive this as information today, but I think at a future council meeting, I'll be seeking council support to direct staff to review the flow between Summit and Queen, Pim and Church, and come with a more fulsome recommendation before any reconstruction is undertaken. So I appreciate the report. I just think it highlighted that this is not something we should be undertaking without reviewing the wider geographic area. So, Councillor Vezoilen, any other questions?
That's it.
Anyone else with items on consent that haven't been discussed? Councillor Dufour.
Quickly, Mr. Mayor, 7.28, Housing Community Improvement Plan, update number 2. Just have a quick question and then some comments. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Mr. Tanazo. Apologies for not giving you a heads up here, but in Appendix A, the CIP Year 1 summary, we've got our new municipal fees rebate program listed that lists another 50 units, affordable units that have qualified under that program. Are those 50 units part of the 125 from the TAG and the 22 from the per door grant, or are these 50 additional outside of those other two programs?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Dufour, those are already baked in. Those are part of the accounting already.
So would it be accurate to say that the total number of affordable units created last year through the CIP is approximately 147?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, my number is it's about 85.
Okay. So in the Appendix A, it's got 22 from the per door grant and then 125 from the tax increment equivalent grant.
My apologies. That's right. It's 40% of 301.
Okay.
Which is the total amount, which includes certainly units that weren't part of our CIP.
Yeah.
So yeah, my apologies. You've got that right.
Okay. Well, either way, I wanted to highlight it because it's such great news. You know, I sat through many a council day where we were passing exemptions to HO6, I believe it was, and a lot of community debate about the provision of affordable housing and development. And with this CIP, we've seen more affordable units created than we ever did under the old regimen, and I think that deserves some praise and some recognition. So thanks very much for all your work on the CIP, Mr. Tanazo. It's certainly yielding excellent results. Thank you.
Thanks, Councilor Dufour. Are there any other comments on this item? Are there any other items on consent to discuss? Councilor Spina, then Councilor Scott.
Thank you very much, Mr. Acamere. 7.10, please. The tender for granular materials, and I believe this is to Ms. Marlowe, if she's here, I think still. Oh, we'll go to Public Works, okay. So through you, Mr. Acamere, to Public Works. So we have, the thing that caught me off guard with this is that there are, this was an RFP that went out and there are 2 proponents selected, and I don't know that I've seen that before. We have a price list that's been provided. Can you help me understand why we're going with 2 instead of whatever the best price was on this one?
Sure, through Mr. Acting Mayor to Councillor Spina. The lowest price is located quite a ways out of town in Hayden for their pits. So the second place essentially price was relatively close to the low bidder. So it just gives Public Works Department flexibility in choosing kind of what's the cheapest, taking into consideration trucking costs.
Okay, and I guess I'm going to be accurate on this, but I'll ask you first. Is there potential that either supplier can change their price during this time, or are they locked in for, I'm assuming they're locked in for the duration of the contract, which is, I think it's 2 years. Is that what's on here?
That's right, they're locked in.
They're locked in, so those prices won't change. Okay, so how is it that we are going to decide which proponent to go with, given that we have 2 of them? And potentially, could we be paying more for a product instead of the lower price, or how are we going to decide who we go with?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Spina, like, it kind of depends on the job, but if we're looking at like a really large quantity where we might be looking even at contracted trucking, it might be cheaper to go with the pit out of Hayden. Where if we're looking at smaller jobs and we're looking at multiple trucking just with our own staff or across town, it might be cheaper to use the closer pit. It's a little bit more expensive per ton aggregate, but the trucking cost would be cheaper.
Right, so you'll be looking at each project through the total cost, not just necessarily the cost of the granular materials. You'll be looking at the cost or manpower to truck it around and offsetting that with whatever the price of the list is. Now, is it potentially, the other thing I thought of, is it potentially beneficial to have a couple of suppliers like this, just in case one, I doubt that these individuals, suppliers are going to run out of material, but just in case one is maybe inaccessible for the day because of some reason, is that something perhaps we should be looking at in the future, or is it just a one-off that we're gonna?
So we use these prices that are locked in, but if there are other types of aggregate that we need, we will look at other suppliers as well in the region.
Right, so if there was an emergency at one of these pits and they were our sole provider, we still have the ability to look at other pits. It's not that we need the 2 of them. We're just doing this because one does have a better price, so we don't want to lose that price on larger projects.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Spina, we want to honor the lowest price as often as we can, but if there are extraneous circumstances, that we'll use other pits if we have to.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Spina. That was on, I believe, 7.10. Other councillors on 7.10? Okay, seeing none. Councillor Spina, any other items on consent? Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 7.11, the sport field lighting, Queen E. I think this will be directed to Ms. Maioni. So through you, Mr. Mayor, I just have a couple of questions. I'm happy to be seeing this done. First off, it's well overdue. Is this work expected to start right away as soon as this basically council meeting's over, it's approved, everything's good?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott, it will be awarded as soon as it's approved by council. It does take 6 to 8 weeks to get the products in town, so we're hoping to have it finished by the end of August.
Okay, yeah, because I think it's at September 1st or whatever. So that leads to my next question. Will there be any impacts to sports over the summer that we're anticipating using that field?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott, that field was not in use last year either, so we've already made accommodations. However, for the football season is when it's planned to be up and running.
Yeah, that's what I figured with the September 1st date. And then I guess the final question kind of ties into the previous ones and your answer. Will we be using the opportunity to repair the field while this is ongoing in preparation? Because I know that there were some big divots and it was in rough shape, so.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Scott, I believe that all the main repairs to that field have been completed.
Great, so everything will be good come September?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Anyone else on 7.11? Councillor Scott, other items on consent?
No, thank you.
Councillor Bruni?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. 7.18. I believe the question goes to Mr. Rumio. Regarding the stormwater management ponds, do we know the exact location, or the study has to be completed before identifying where these stormwater ponds are going to be located?
Through Mr. Mayor to Councillor Bruni. These recommendations were brought forward in the Peoples Road area drainage environmental assessment that was done several years ago. The locations were, bear with me, there's one on Peoples Road south of Hillside Drive. There are two ponds, small ponds recommended in the Elliott Field property outside of the playing areas in the parking lot. There's one immediately downstream of the cemetery, south of 4th Line on the east side of Peoples Road.
And this will be completed by the end of the summer?
Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Bruni, no, we'll procure engineering to have these actually detailed designed and sized properly. And they are in our capital plan transportation program for 27 and 28. Be done likely two ponds per year.
Okay, thank you. That's it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Councilor Bruni. Anyone else on 718? Councilor Bruni, any other items on consent?
No, I don't. Just 7.20, but I see there's a few amendments there, so I'll speak on those after.
Okay. Anyone else with items on consent? Councilor Caputo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just quickly wanted to ask a couple of questions about 7.8, the vacant home tax summary. Thank you. So I see here that in 2024, 44 VHTs were added to 44 separate properties, and in 2025 there were 47. Do you have the information on how many of those are the same property?
You, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Caputo, I don't have those on me, but I could get those to you.
Okay, I just wonder more about like, I think the intention when I brought this forward was that we were going to tax these or charge the VHT, and then folks would fill these units. So I'm hoping that that's what's happening and not just the same homes are being charged over and over again, that they're choosing to keep them vacant. So whenever, I should have asked you that question ahead of time, I'm sorry. But when you have that information, if you wouldn't mind sending it my way, I would appreciate it.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councilor Caputo, I can definitely pass that information to you. I would just like to add a comment that I do see a lot of properties selling.
Amazing. That's good. That means that we're getting the results we intended then.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all my questions.
Thank you, Councilor Caputo. Anyone else on 7 point, what number was that? Sorry, 8? Councilor Kinnick, yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have comments. I'm glad to see that this program is working the way it's intended. I know it came to council. We had some constituent feedback, and on the council floor, we did increase the percentage we were charging. And it's nice to hear from a representative in that from the tax office here today that some of these properties are going on the sales are going up for sale now, and that's what we wanted. And it's great to see that this council has had a positive effect on the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Kinnick. Councilor Caputo, other items on consent?
Thank you. No.
Anyone else with other items on consent? Councilor Gardy?
Forgive me, Mr. Mayor, I'll ask you first. I was out of the room a couple of times. 7.16, Greyhounds agreement.
Yeah, go ahead.
It wasn't canvassed yet at all?
Not yet, no.
Okay, give me one moment, please, just to pull it up again. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I guess to Mr. Ver? Would that? Oh, sorry, that's right. Sorry, Mr. Lemon. Pardon me?
Miss Mayoni.
Miss Mayoni, okay. Sure this time? I'm just kidding. Thank you. Hi, Miss Mayoni. When it comes to this, the renewal of the agreement, the agreement, the one that this is built upon was originally in 2006, correct?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, yes, that's correct.
And so it was obviously a 20-year agreement. I'm just looking at the page, the bottom of, I think, the second to last page of the report. It says all other financial aspects of the agreement remain unchanged, including city retention of 90% of food and beverage revenue, city receipt of 10% of all gross in-facility advertising revenue, city retention of 100% of facility naming rights, and city retention of 80% of suite lease revenues. I'm just kind of scratching my head a bit on the 10% of all gross in-facility advertising revenue. While I understand not a heck of a lot of people may otherwise advertise there if the Greyhounds weren't playing there, over the course of the last several years, we've probably benefited from the fact that when you walk into a Greyhound game, you're almost overstimulated by the amount of advertising in it, quite frankly. But I wonder, out of those four aspects that are remaining the same, if there couldn't have been a little bit of an improvement as to the percentage of the facility advertising revenue that we could have garnered. I don't even know if I have a question. It's more of a comment, but I guess through you, Mr. Mayor, to Ms. Maione, was there any discussion about that part of the deal with the Hounds at all?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Gardy, specifically regarding the advertising, that wasn't fully discussed. The main focus was on the ticket splits, which the city is now getting a further increase as opposed to what they've been getting over the last 19 years. So that was more beneficial regarding revenue than looking into the advertising.
Okay. Thanks.
Anyone else on 716? No? Okay. Councilor Gardy, other items on consent? Negative. Anyone else with items on consent? Okay. Brings us to...
So I have a motion by Councillors Zagordo and Hollingsworth, resolved that all the items listed under date March 23, 2026, agenda item 7, consent agenda, save and accept agenda items 7.3 and 7.20 be approved as recommended.
All in favor? That carries.
That will take us to agenda item 7.20, the reconstruction of People's Road Phase 2 contract award. So the main motion is by Councillors Zagordo and Spina, resolved that the report of the Manager of Design and Transportation Engineering dated March 23, 2026 concerning the reconstruction of People's Road be received, and that contract 2026-2E be awarded to Avery Construction Limited. I do have an amending motion by Councillors Scott and Spina, resolved that the motion be amended by adding to the end of the paragraph the following: further be it resolved that the traffic lights to be installed at Third Line and People's Road be enabled by the installation of the equipment to permit the future installation of the traffic signals, but that the traffic signals not be installed until such time as the future traffic count confirms the intersection meets all the criteria for signal installation. And I will open the amendment.
This is just to add the wording to the main motion, Council. And I think my understanding of the recommendation is that the traffic counts in the area meet almost all of the criteria for signal installation. Mr. Rumio, if I get any of this wrong, please correct me. They meet almost all the criteria, and so while we're doing major reconstruction of the area, it makes sense to put the infrastructure in. I'm suggesting make sure the infrastructure is in the ground, but the poles and the lights shouldn't go up until it meets all of the criteria for new signal installation. A fair assessment of the state of things, Mr. Rumio?
That's fair.
Bit of a leading question, but nevertheless. So this is to add that language to the main motion, then we can vote on the main motion altogether. Councillor Dufour?
Just a quick question through you to Mr. Rumiel. Is there a current, obviously there's a current design for this intersection? Does the current design call for the infrastructure to be installed at Third Line and Peoples Road?
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, yes, the current recommendation from the designer and their traffic team is to install and activate the signals after construction.
Okay, and what's the remaining metric that would be required to activate the signals that hasn't been met yet?
If we would like to dig into Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, if we'd like to dig into the justifications, I would ask Maggie to come to the stand. She has the details, but as the Mayor has mentioned, they are close now to meeting the justification for traffic volumes. Certainly in the near future, should we experience the housing development, which the whole project is intended to facilitate, we would be there. And from a pedestrian standpoint, it would be a safer intersection with a safe crossing, and we are hopefully introducing more pedestrians to the intersection with the extension of the hub trail.
Okay, does the pedestrian count with the extension of the hub trail contribute to that metric, or is it a traffic metric alone that determines when the lights are reinstalled or installed and commissioned?
Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour, so there are several justifications. I believe the justification that is like close now, will be in the future, is the justification on volume alone. I can get Ms. McCauley to the mic if we'd like to dig into all of the traffic data.
I'm more curious about how far into the future we're talking about.
Why don't we get Maggie up to the mic there?
On the stand, as you said previously.
Did I say that?
You're sworn in, Ms. McCauley.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Dufour. So the future that we're looking at was a 2034 projection that was considered a 1% growth rate, and it added about 200 vehicles to that intersection. And they did do some sensitivity analysis on that number, and basically if the units that we proposed that were part of the funding application for this added 270 vehicles to that intersection for the same study period. So that the funding is essentially a 2% traffic growth rate, and we analyzed it based on a 1% traffic growth rate. The numbers were 100% on volume, 100%, there was a 100% and a 77% for delays to minor roads, which would be Third Line. Had it been 80%, that justification would have been met. The other justification that didn't meet was collisions, and the collisions met an 80% factor for that. To compare it to today, 100% for the volume, or a 2024, sorry, was the analysis, the traffic data. 100% volume, 100% delay to minor road, 70%. So that would have been the 80% that would to push it over. And again, the 80% traffic collision. So those were the two areas that changed. So with 1%, we get from 70 to 77% of the collision or of the minor delay justification being met.
Thanks for that information. Am I understanding it correctly then that we almost have enough traffic accidents there to warrant a light, and it warrants it in every other way? We're just waiting for more traffic accidents before we put the light in?
In the other one, it was just delays to the minor traffic. So the delay, it was that 80%, and we only met 77. But yes, the collision factors didn't meet 100% justification. Okay, well, so that's why we're recommending it, right? We're looking at the data saying that we recommend the traffic signal.
Yeah, I mean, if every other metric meets except for collisions, I think we should probably just put the lights in for my part. So thank you. That's the information I needed.
Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Don't leave the stand yet. Just a quick question through Mr. Mayor to, I don't know who this, probably the same, but it's, so have we considered the Sackville expansion, Ms. McCauley, like in this traffic?
It wasn't considered.
You think that that would certainly push us over the, hopefully not on collisions, but push us over the edge for everything, for basically every metric?
We have discussed internally, and it could also reduce, right? We don't really know until it's open and people start developing patterns, right?
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Just a quick comment. I've taken this way at around 4 o'clock coming home, and sometimes you're waiting on third line for a very, very long time, and it's developed quite a long lineup of cars. So I think a light would be huge for that. So I was happy to absolutely put this forward after discussing it with Mr. Mayor. So thank you for that, and thank you for your answers.
Can we vote on the amendment and then discuss either the main motion? Did you have a question on the amendment?
Yeah, can I had hits on eScribe because I thought that the initial design didn't have traffic signal capabilities.
So can you uncheck your vote?
How do I, am I allowed to?
Is that possible, Madam Clerk?
That's my question. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I got a question.
Sorry, was that Councillor Bruin?
Yes, yes.
Yes, go ahead. Yeah, I did have you down. I missed.
Okay, before the vote occurs, over the years, as a councillor in that area, I've received many calls regarding a traffic light. If you're traveling west on third line and you want to make a left-hand turn, it's dangerous because it's 2 lanes on People's Road. One is a turning lane, one is straight through. On the west side of People's Road, you have a Boniferro mill there located with transports. Difficult for the transports to make a left-hand turn. So over the years, the numbers have increased, the accidents have increased. A light there would be very, very important for especially the residents and also for the pedestrians that want to cross the street. There is a store there that people go to. There's a sidewalk on the west side of People's Road that goes all the way to 4th line. So people do use that sidewalk and they need to cross the street. As Councillor Scott stated, he's used it. I use it on a regular basis, and there's always lineups if you want to turn from 3rd line onto People's Road. It is dangerous. I do have a question for Ms. McCauley regarding the electrical pole that is on the southeast corner, and you have transports that are traveling north on People's Road and they want to make a right-hand turn. It's such a sharp turn that in the springtime, you see transports tires that are inches away from the pole. And I believe the pole has been hit several times over the last so many years. Will that pole be removed and relocated?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Bruni, yes, we are reviewing that pole. We're discussing it with the utility owner. I think their first preference would be to bury the electrical, which we've made provisions for in this contract. And if that is not possible, because they haven't finished their detailed design, the pole will be relocated further back from the curb.
Okay, thank you. I will be voting against the amendments and vote for the original one. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bruni. Okay, so can we have a vote on the amendment? Or is the vote complete?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, so I have It passes 7-4. In favor, Councillors Gardy, Vezo Allen, Scott, Zagordo, Hollingsworth, Kinnick, Spina, and Mayor Shoemaker. And in the negative, Councillor Caputo, Councillor Dufour, and Councillor Burney.
Okay. So then,
So I will read the motion as amended. Resolved that the report of the Manager of Design and Transportation Engineering dated March 23, 2026 concerning the reconstruction of Peoples Road be received and that contract 2026-2E be awarded to Avery Construction Limited. Further be it resolved that the traffic signals to be installed at Third Line and Peoples Road be enabled by the installation of the equipment to permit the future installation of traffic signals, but that the traffic signals not be installed until such time as a future traffic count confirms the intersection meets all the criteria for signal installation.
are there any questions on the main report, Council? Okay, seeing none, we can have a vote on the matter. All in favor? Any opposed? That carries.
That will bring will bring us to the Tourism Board appointment. I have a motion by Councillors Caputo and Hollingsworth. Resolved that accommodations representative Cindy Beauchamp be appointed to the Tourism Sault Ste. Marie Board from March 23, 2026 to December 31, 2026.
Any questions, Council? And we can vote on that. All in favor? Carries.
That will bring us to agenda item 9.1, traffic control signals, Trunk Road, Daisy Road, and Frontenac Street. It's a motion by Councillors Spina and Hollingsworth, whereas concerns regarding the safety of vehicle and pedestrian traffic at the intersection of Daisy Road and Trunk Road have been raised by residents, and whereas a number of motor vehicle collisions have been reported at the intersection, and whereas new residential developments in the area have led to an increase in motor vehicle and pedestrian traffic in the area, and whereas a recent traffic study has shown that there has been an increase in traffic at the intersection of Daisy Road and Trunk Road, and whereas the safe movement of vehicles and pedestrians is a priority for the City of Sault Ste. Marie, and whereas pedestrians are required to cross Trunk Road on foot to access White Pines High School, and whereas the creation of this intersection with traffic control signals would create a mutually beneficial partnership with Batchewana First Nation and the City of Sault Ste. Marie to relieve traffic congestion in the area and the nearby intersection of Trunk Road, Boundary Road, and Adelaide Street. And whereas the creation of an intersection with traffic control signals connecting Daisy Road, Trunk Road, and Frontenac Street would lead to an increase in the safe travel of vehicles and pedestrians in the area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that staff be requested to research the creation of an intersection complete with traffic control signals to connect Frontenac Street, Daisy Road, and Trunk Road, and that staff engage partners from Batchewana First Nation and the rail service and report back to Council on the feasibility, timelines, and cost of this project, along with any potential funding opportunities. Further, that this report be brought back to Council as soon as possible so that any potential construction, if approved by Council, can be added to the 2027 budget deliberations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Much appreciated. I appreciate some of the work on staff on this. And, you know, this has come forward because this has been an ever evolving intersection or ever evolving area of town, excuse me, of town. Over the past several years, new residential development in the area has brought new foot traffic and new vehicle and motor vehicle traffic to this area. In addition, Trunk Road at this intersection at Daisy Road is not what we would call a traditional 90-degree intersection. These are two streets that intersect on a bit of an angle, especially in the winter when the banks start to get large. It creates a very difficult position for vehicles to navigate the intersection safely and turn either onto Trunk Road or onto Daisy Road. In addition, it creates the same challenge for pedestrians crossing the road north-south as well. Now, we know that the intersection a little ways back at Boundary Road, Adelaide Street, and Trunk Road is at times quite congested. There's a lot of traffic in that area. There's a big backup in that area. And It is essentially the main and only exit from Manitou Park and Batchewana First Nation to come back onto Trunk Road, other than one much, much farther east down Trunk Road. I have had the opportunity to speak with Chief McCoy. He's very supportive of this project or any project that would help to connect the roadways in this area. And I've spoken with many residents in the area, and they are looking forward to having a traffic control signal in that area that would help them navigate this area. Now, I've also had a chance to speak to Mr. Lamming. I understand that there are other potential projects that are being considered in this area as well. And I think this may be a great opportunity to consider those projects as a whole. Now, I realize this is certainly my time to have comments on this, but if you're okay with it, Mr. Mayor, I may ask Mr. Lamming to elaborate on the other project that he has in mind for this area, considering that White Pines is a priority to make sure that pedestrian traffic can get to that school as safely as possible.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, to Councillor Spina. Specific to the traffic, I'd refer that to Mr. Ramil. There has been a bit of an initiative that's been started, led by the mayor with the Community Economic Development Initiative, and council has been made aware of that. There's going to be an upcoming meeting on that. Specifically, it's a partnership between Batchewana, Batchewana, City of Sault Ste. Marie, and Huron Central to look to potentially together in collaboration to potentially connect to Batchewana. So in alignment with what you're saying, this could be worked into that dialogue at a future date.
Wonderful, thank you. And you know, the last part of this motion asks for council to bring, or sorry, asks for staff to bring this report back as soon as possible, so that if approved, we could consider this in 27 budget deliberations. I think that part is very important because it shows to the residents of Sault Ste. Marie that we are very concerned about the safety of vehicles and pedestrians in that area. And it's something that I think if you ask residents, they will tell you it's long overdue. And I think to show them that we are actively working on this as fast as possible, I think is something that they want to see. So I appreciate staff, if this is approved, working so quickly on it when it comes back.
Councillor Spina, Councillor, sorry, your seconder, Hollingsworth.
Basically, he summarized, we have the equal thoughts on this, and same constituents have been contacting me, and it's just ironic that we both jumped at the same time. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Council, as you heard Mr. Lamming say, this is part of the Community Economic Development Initiative, SETI, that we are undertaking with Batchewana First Nation, but I think this expresses Council's desire, and if for some reason staff through that program think that it should be located, the intersection should be located in another spot, then I think that would come back to us as a consideration for our approval. But this, you know, an expression of our will, and not necessarily, you know, usurping the consultations we're doing with Batchewana at the moment on this very specific issue. So at least that's the way I read your motion, Councillor Spina. And so I think it's fine to approve, subject to you know, those consultations that we're undertaking now. With that, we can have a vote on the matter. All in favor? That carries. So.
Got 9.2, but it's Councillor Hollingsworth's.
Yep.
Agenda item 9.2, traffic study, Wellington Street East and Shannon Road. I have a motion by Councillors Hollingsworth and Spina. Be it resolved that Public Works and Engineering Services be requested to undertake a traffic warrant study for the signal at the intersection of Wellington Street East and Shannon Road and report back to City Council with the study findings by September 1, 2026.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. I want to say thank you to my ward mate, Councillor Spina, for being the seconder, and also for the mayor's guidance on this. It's very straightforward. When you talk to different constituents and you're in the area, it just doesn't seem to be a very busy intersection. However, let's have staff do a study, as simple as that. Thank you.
Counselor, sorry, your seconder, I think, is Counselor Spina on this?
Correct.
Anything further to add?
Nope, she summed it up perfectly. Happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Council, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries.
So that carries. Oh, vote in favor?
Voted in favor.
9-1 with Councillor Dufour in the negative. And agenda item 9.3, community economic development. It's a motion by Councillors Hollingsworth and Scott. Whereas working with surrounding communities offers significant economic, social, and operational advantages, transforming local economies by fostering sustainable growth, creating jobs, and enhancing quality of life. And whereas this community economic development approach keeps money circulating locally, often generating 70% more local economic activity than non-local alternatives, and builds resilience against economic pressures. And whereas many already see the city of Sault Ste. Marie as the hub and the surrounding communities as spokes, and whereas Sault Ste. Marie has a responsibility to ensure we work together to ensure prosperity for all. And whereas many surrounding communities currently rely on Sault Ste. Marie for employment, services including healthcare, shopping for basic needs, professional services from banking to legal and sporting events, to name a few. And whereas developing a strong economic and tourism strategy with communities in Algoma will build a healthier community for all. And whereas many other cities, towns, and townships have created and executed economic and tourism strategies that have resulted in employment, ensuring a bright future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Mayor, CAO, Economic Development Corporation, and Tourism Sault Ste. Marie Board establish a working group with Wawa, Echo Bay, Blind River, St. Joseph Island, and other members of the Algoma District Municipal Association to set economic goals that could include small to mid-sized industries and/or tourism and/or agriculture to ensure that Sault Ste. Marie and area is resilient for the future as artificial intelligence and other changes start to impact the community.
Councillor Hollingsworth.
Thank you. And thank you, Councillor Scott, for being the seconder. Now, I can appreciate that the city has worked very hard over the last number of years to create different initiatives to ensure that we have economic prosperity and tourism prosperity. So I want to say thank you. We can go on and on with good examples of how we have built tourism in Algoma and also in our city. But this particular resolution is to be, again, proactive. I like to ensure that our city is labeled as proactive and not reactive. Actually, this should have been basically done and created when we did the strategic plan a number of years ago. Once the strategic plan was created, I think it should have been shared with the top 5 largest surrounding communities, such as Prince Township, Echo Bay, Wawa, St. Joe's Island, Blind River, and so forth. Why? I believe that our strategic plan has some excellent information, excellent goals, excellent action items that we could share with the surrounding communities, and I think that they would be on board and want to participate as well. The city has identified, as I mentioned, excellent goals, such as food security, environmental friendly, etc., that we could build on with our surrounding communities. I can, again, like I said, appreciate the city has tried to work on tourism initiatives with Destination Northern Ontario and so forth. Again, Ontario Tourism has submitted outstanding workshops, has submitted outstanding programs that we all have benefited, but let's expand on it. Basically, I'd like the city to take the strategic plan and set up a meeting with the mayors, as I mentioned, of the different communities, Echo Bay, Wawa, St. Joe's Island, and so forth. I would hope that working with the surrounding communities, that as a group, they can identify possibly five economic action items and 5 tourist action items that will benefit all, that will potentially grow a regional industry and or sector. Why is it important to collaborate and not work in silos? I can give you a few factual evidence of successes where we collaborated and all benefited. One, you may remember a number of years ago, we were going to lose the Huron Central Railway, but we did not. Why? Because we collaborated with many different communities down that line, all the way down to Espanola, led by our former wonderful councillor, Steve Butlin, and also Fertizzi. They went out and spoke to different communities, and as a result, we still have Huron Central. That's a good example where we have collaborated, where we all came to the same table and talked about why we need this railroad. And actually, we need it even more if we are successful with the port. A number of us had the opportunity to meet with Sylvia Jones, Minister Sylvia Jones, who was the Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. She gave us some incredible advice about 2 years ago, I think, when we were bidding on the Heart Hub. A number of us were part of a delegation led by our mayor. She said, and I quote, "Don't submit an application just from the city. Don't be a silo, but submit an application including your partners. If I receive an application just from the city without partners, it most likely will be rejected." So our application included Canadian Mental Health, social services like DSAB, Algoma Family Services, and so forth. And guess what? We had success. We received the Heart Hub because we went with partners. Not just partners in our city, but we also looked outside our city. Another example, as I mentioned, was Huron Central Railway. One other example that you may not like, but it's a true example. Sudbury. Sudbury continues to prosper, and why? Sudbury has repositioned itself to work with its surrounding communities, such as St. Charles, Lively, French River, to lobby together for federal funding and provincial funding. And as a result, they are now seen as the hub for healthcare for the North. In this current day, in this current environment, you can't be on an island, a silo, but instead act as a regional collaborative team. Basically, I like to see us as the spoke and hub model. We, as the hub, outline communities as the spokes. If I can say, face it, the surrounding communities already feed into us, as my resolution has stated. They shop with us, they use professional services like the dentists, lawyers, and so forth. They eat in our restaurants, they're employed in our businesses all throughout community. We have family that lives outside the city, we have friends that live outside the city, we have friends obviously that live in the city and family. Having a strong economy in the surrounding areas only benefits us immensely and the surrounding community. The two levels of government have clearly said over and over, show us you are working with the regional mayors. Show us a good regional economic strategic plan, and then let's talk. The port that we talked about tonight, I hope after this meeting that you'll go down to the different communities and ask for the support for the port, because that port's going to benefit them as well. Can you go to the Wawas and the St. Joe's Islands and the Blind Rivers and so forth and include them? Anyway, I feel that we haven't sat down with the mayors of Echo Bay or St. Joe's Island or Blind River enough to establish the top 5 economic activities that will work for all of us. Because if we have them, because if we haven't, then why would I have received emails from Mayor Lynn Watson asking for a resolution like this? Why would St. Joe's Islands thank me for a resolution like this? They're asking to work with us. They're asking for a regional economic plan. So basically, imagine if all the communities got together, we would have more successes like the Huron Central Railway situation. We would have a successful bid with the port. In conclusion, I could go on with further benefits, but basically, the last point I just want to make to reemphasize, we are in a challenging time, so let's be proactive and let's try to identify some key economic indicators I want to give you an example, food security. We talked about it around this table over and over again about food security. Down the line, we have agriculture and we have potential to work with potentially Echo Bay or Blind River to maybe have commercial greenhouses like they have in Leamington, where maybe the PUC might be a partner. Who knows? Can we just get to the table and talk about some possible economic benefits and tourism? Wouldn't it be great if we can just come up with a regional plan together for all our benefits? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hollingsworth. Just on the operative clause here, now therefore be it resolved, we don't direct either the EDC board or the tourism board, so could we direct our EDC staff and our tourism staff to do that instead of the boards? Could we just change that language, Madam Clerk? Is that a friendly amendment that you're agreeable to, Councillor Scott? So with that amendment, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries.
Agenda item 9.4, assessment appeals. It's a motion by Councillor Scott and Zagordo, whereas a small number of large tax appeals from large landowners have caused the city to lose revenues that were budgeted for, and whereas it is the city's objective to avoid tax increases that could result from the lost assessment. And whereas it is prudent to review tax classes, ratios, and other tax policies to offset any losses that have arisen as a result of tax appeals, now therefore be it resolved that staff be directed to review the city's tax ratios, classes, or any other tax policy that could offset some or all of the losses from the large tax appeals.
Councillor Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just for everyone else's consumption, this was born out of some conversations that I had with staff and Mr. Mayor. He helped me out with formulating this in a better way. So yeah, that's it. It's just some frustrations about some of the losses from tax appeals, and hopefully we can find some ways to recoup. And thank you to Councillor Zagordo for seconding.
Zagordo, anything to add to that?
Nothing to add, just happy to support my councillor mate. Thanks.
Thank you. All in favor? That carries.
And that will take us to bylaws. I've got a motion by Councillors Caputo and Hollingsworth. Resolved that all bylaws under item 12 of the agenda under date March 23, 2026 be approved.
All in favor? That carries.
And a motion by Councillors Caputo and Spina. Resolved that this council move into closed session to discuss 2 items concerning proposed acquisition of lands, 6 items concerning proposed disposition of lands, and 1 item concerning labor relations or employee negotiations. Further be it resolved that should the said closed session be adjourned, the council may reconvene in closed session to continue to discuss the same without the need for a further authorizing resolution.
All in favor? That carries.
And I have a motion by Councillors Zagordo and Hollingsworth that this council now adjourn.
All in favor?